In our clan, we each choose a dragon egg at birth to accompany us, then marry and bear children with the dragon when it hatches. My egg hasn't hatched yet. My sister's dragon came rushing over to sob to me. In our past life, I was blind to trust her lies. That's why I betrayed you. She never loved me at all. Just wanted to use my dragon's blood to save her boyfriend. I just saw her swap your eggs. The truth is, I'm the one who's truly yours. Is he reincarnated? What a coincidence. So am I. In my past life, I nurtured him with utmost care, giving him everything I had. He believed the slander that I'd swapped my sister's egg with mine, crippling his powers, and threw tantrums to join her instead. When I refused, he roasted me alive with dragon fire. After rebirth, I'm done caring. What's the difference who I raise anyway? What egg swap? Never happened. His expression looked utterly shattered. Ira, don't you recognize me? I frowned in annoyance. Who the hell was this guy? Today marks the crucial moment when my dragon finally hatches. I won't let anyone ruin this. I pointed at him and snapped. Whose dragon is this? Keep it under control before it frightens mine. After raising it for over a decade, with just this final step left, failure is absolutely not an option now. I bit my finger and let a drop of blood fall onto the egg. The blood was quickly absorbed by the egg. Soon after, the eggshell began emitting a faint glow, a crisp cracking sound. The eggshell shattered. I couldn't wait to step forward, making sure he'd see me the moment he opened his eyes. How beautiful. My admiration came straight from the heart. Our clan forged a pact with the Dragonkin a millennium ago. We aid their dwindling bloodlines with offspring. They ensure our prosperity. In our clan, every girl must journey alone to Dragon Mountain to choose her dragon egg from the age of 10. In my past life, I picked a dull gray egg, nurtured it with care, feeding it my own blood daily. Yet on our wedding day, it roasted me alive with a single fiery breath. Somehow he'd heard rumors that I'd swapped eggs with my sister out of selfishness. If not for you, how could I have been born without even the ability to fly? It's because you're so useless that I have to suffer with you. Why are you so selfish? Why don't you just drop dead? I recalled that I did see my sister trying to swap my egg back then, but I switched it back after she left. He's definitely one of my people. No matter how earnestly I explained, he refused to believe me, accusing me of making excuses, until his rage and anguish consumed me like living flames. After death, I was reborn. This time, I caught my sister secretly swapping our eggs but pretended not to notice. What's the difference which one we raise anyway? The shell cracked open, revealing a sleeping infant inside who grew with every passing breeze. In no time, he blossomed into the form of a man, and just my type, that delicate, refined beauty. I leaned down to seal our bond with a kiss, marking this ritual as our eternal vow of devotion. Loren grew frantic beside me, with that wrinkled skin, beady black eyes, and mediocre physique. Ira, are you seriously going to form a contract with this dragon? I turned with an amused smirk. This is the dragon I hatched. If I don't bond with him, should I bond with you instead? Loren froze, his eyes brimming with hurt. I shoved him aside without mercy. Move along. Don't interrupt my cuddle time with my husband. My little dragon has awakened. His obsidian eyes sparkled like the night sky, pure and mesmerizing, and the first words out of his mouth were, "Darling wife." That sweet little mouth filled me with joy, making all those days reading romance novels to his egg worthwhile. Everyone was saying, "Ira, you should give your dragon a name. Let's call it Jasper," she said with domineering CEO energy. All right, Jasper it is then. The clan leader had Jasper's name recorded in the family registry and instructed, "Take your dragon away now and raise it well. When the time comes, you two can marry and have offspring." The uncles and aunts on the side were also urging us on. "The dragon clan's lineage is dwindling. It falls to you to continue our bloodline." "That's right, we're all waiting for your good news," I readily agreed. "We'll head back right away and start making babies." She gave his cheek another playful pinch. How gorgeous. Forget waiting, I can hardly contain myself right now. I hurriedly pulled him upstairs. "No, I won't allow this." Loren stepped forward to intervene. His sister grabbed his arm. "What are you doing? You're supposed to be my dragon." Loren coldly shook off her hand. "Let go. I regret ever believing your lies." How could I have hurt Ira because of them? The clan leader and the others were completely stunned. What on earth is going on here? Loren pointed at my sister and accused her before everyone. 10 years ago she swapped me with that dragon. I'm Ira's true dragon. I demand we switch back immediately. Wait, does that mean he's also been reborn? But what exactly is he trying to say with this outburst? Doesn't he dislike me? I treated him so well in my past life. When he first arrived, he couldn't adjust to the climate here and kept longing for the scenery of Dragon Mountain. I drove hundreds of kilometers every day just to take him into the mountains for fresh air. I even had to put my studies on hold because of it. Later, when he got injured and needed a blood transfusion, I kept him alive with my own blood. That nearly cost me half my life. But when he woke up, not a single word of thanks came my way. Though it hurt, I let it slide. figuring he just didn't understand human complexities yet. Later, when we got married, he breathed fire at me right before the ceremony. He believed those slanderous words, convinced that I was the one who swapped the dragon egg all those years ago, causing him to lose all his spiritual power. If it weren't for what you did back then, I would have evolved into the supreme golden dragon by now. Someone as selfish as you doesn't deserve to live in this world. The pain in my heart cut deeper than any physical wound. I gave him everything, only to be repaid with this betrayal. How dare he have the audacity to request switching partners now? Excuse me, did anyone bother to get my consent for this? I flatly refused. Whether Seraphina swapped our eggs or not is none of my concern. All I know is I've formed a bond with my dragon. He's my life partner now. Xiaobo nestled obediently against me and planted a loud kiss on my cheek, saying, "That's right, I wouldn't trade my wife for anyone else either." I looked up and scoffed at Lauren's utterly shocked expression. Does this fool still think I'm that lovesick Ira from our past life who was head over heels for him? That dragon's fiery breath thoroughly cured me of my romantic delusions. After all, marriage is just marriage, right? Who cares who you marry? And Xiaobo is quite good looking anyway. Isn't he? I immediately took Xiaobo upstairs. To be honest, I felt an instant connection with him, especially his face, which was exactly my type. You're so beautiful, too. Just because I was deceived in my past life doesn't mean I can't love again. I gently touched his face, clearly pleased, being quite perceptive. He picked up on my subtle hint and immediately offered to take a shower. I blushed. Oh my, can't wait any longer. Go ahead then, truth be told. I was dying to get a good look at his sculpted physique, but just then, someone had to ruin the moment. It was the clan leader. He messaged me asking for help, that Loren absolutely refuses to marry Seraphina. I'm at my wit's end after all this time incubating them, and they've even taken human form. Yet, playing dumb, I countered, "Elder, how is this any of my business? Stop playing innocent, girl. This is entirely your doing." I insisted I'd followed all incubation protocols to the letter. So the outcome wasn't my responsibility. Can you talk some sense into him? We've tried everything, even threatened the extinction of our dragon lineage, but he won't listen. Ira, you'll have to bear this burden. Without his cooperation, our family's prosperity will be lost. I understand exactly how the clan leader feels. Now that the pact is sealed, the natural next step would be marriage and heirs. This has been the way since time immemorial, without exception, after all. When dragon hatchlings emerge from their eggs, the first thing they see is their future mate. Classic imprinting at work, but who would have thought Loren would be the exception? The clan leader sighed in frustration. I chuckled. No wonder, he's a reincarnated soul. But honestly, that's none of my business. Whatever bond we had was consumed by the flames of our past lives, so when the clan leader asked me to mediate, I flat out refused. No can do, also. I'm busy kissing my husband, don't bother us unless it's urgent. Then I immediately powered off my device. That's still not enough. To avoid being pestered by the clan leader's people, I decided to take Xiaobo out with me. He was surprisingly obedient, asking no questions and just sweetly said, "Wherever you go, I'll follow." After wandering around, he grew tired and transformed into a little azure dragon, curling up on me. I carried him home carefully, and as soon as I stepped inside, I spotted a figure crouching on the doorstep. Upon closer look, it turned out to be Loren. "What are you doing here?" He looked up with pleading eyes. "Just half a day apart, and you already look so haggard, like a forlorn little puppy. I've called you countless times and sent you so many messages. Why aren't you responding?" I found it ridiculous. Since when am I obligated to reply just because you texted? Who do you think you are to me? I remember one time he pulled a disappearing act without a word, leaving me frantic with worry. We've filed a police report and posted missing person notices. As a last resort, I just waited by the roadside near our home for him to return. I kept texting him over and over again. "Where are you? Don't hurt yourself just to spite me. We can talk things through. If you want to leave me, that's okay. Just come back first, please." Back then he could still maintain his human form for a while, but I worried he'd reveal his true nature if he stayed out too long. If some troublemaker snaps photos and uploads them online, we're done for. I was so frantic that I burst into tears. To my surprise, he showed up fashionably late, and stepped out of Seraphina's car. They were all over each other, laughing, whispering, and even locking lips, utterly inseparable. He only noticed me when he tripped over my crouched figure on the steps. He looked down with disdain, sneering, "What are you doing here? I'm not a 3-year-old child. Do I really need your supervision? Don't go looking for trouble in the future." That's how my heart gradually turned cold. What's with this sudden innocent act between us? Ugh, disgusting. Get lost. I've got no time for this. He blocked my path with outstretched arms, saying nothing, just staring at me with those puppy dog eyes. Oh, trying the handsome guy tactic. Honestly, I used to fall for that trick every time, if he ever looked at me like that. I'd instantly melt, forgetting all the awful things he did and even swallowing my pride to comfort him. Now that I've got my own hottie, why would I spare him a second thought? Move aside. Come on. Loren looked down, about to say something when he spotted the little azure dragon in my arms. You're holding him. You're actually holding him. His face twisted with jealousy. The little dragon raised its head slightly and murmured something. I whispered soothingly, "Shoo, it's all right. Just a dog barking. Go back to sleep." My hushed tone made Loren visibly pale. "You don't actually like him, do you?" His voice even trembled as he said it. I tilted my head at him. "Yeah, I'll pamper my man. What's wrong with that?" "Oh, I get it. He's never been treated with this kind of tenderness in his life, has he?" Their dragon clan periodically regresses into miniature dragonlings from infancy. At this stage, they're at their most vulnerable. Even the slightest disturbance could be fatal, requiring extra meticulous care. In my past life, I worried he might come to harm while I was at school, so I made a point of bringing him along, just keep him right under my nose, but he completely missed my good intentions, thinking I was just giving him a hard time. "What's the point of dragging me to your classes every day? Do you think I'm not exhausted? All these people are driving me crazy. Don't you know this disrupts my spiritual practice? They look at me like I'm some kind of freak. Are you just here to mess with me?" As soon as he recovered, he couldn't wait to shapeshift back and pull a disappearing act. I frantically called around trying to track him down. He snapped back, "Stop mothering me. If you're so bored, go find something productive to do instead of clinging to me 24/7. My heart has grown cold. After all those sleepless nights I pulled, his words made me look like a complete fool. And now he has the nerve to come to me with teary eyes, playing the victim. Give me a break. I don't want to hear another word. You always say you value independence. Well, here's the perfect chance to prove it." That comment clearly hit a nerve. "You've got it all wrong. She's nothing like what you imagine. She knew how fragile I've been lately, yet she completely abandoned me. Give me a break. They just threw me into a lizard cage and went off to play by themselves. Even a stray dog could come bully me back then, treating me like some plaything." His voice choked up when recounting the most humiliating part. I nodded. "That's truly pitiful, but what's that got to do with me? In my past life, he resented my care and immediately turned to seduce my sister, begging her to save him from his misery. Now that you've seen his true colors, you come crying back to me. Do I look like a doormat to you?" 3. He bit his lips stubbornly, refusing to let me leave. Little Azure Dragon yawned lazily and said, "Ugh, so annoying. Even my wife told you to get lost. Why are you still hanging around? Don't you realize how obnoxious this is?" I nodded. This guy, if he's got something to say, he might as well say it all. Catching my glance, Little Azure Dragon started rambling non-stop. "Besides, like is like, dislike is dislike. Being clingy like this won't change anything. It just makes you look pathetic." Loren staggered, nearly losing his balance. "It's not about being contradicted, but these very words, he'd said them to me before. In our past life, he turned a blind eye to my kindness, always choosing to oppose me instead. I thought since he'd just taken human form and knew little of this world, I'd indulge his dragon-like willfulness. Yet I never imagined he'd seek out my sister the moment he turned away. Not only did his attitude toward me completely change, but he was also exchanging intimate smiles with her. I felt utterly heartbroken. When I confronted him after he returned, he brushed me off with indifference. "It was just casual conversation. Why are you overthinking it?" Yet now he's holding my hand saying, "Ira, you're actually the one who's truly my wife. You saw Serafina swap the eggs back then, didn't you?" "No. You definitely saw it," he insisted stubbornly. Then he pushed me to testify. "If you just testify, we can swap them back, and I can return to your side." He gazed at me with hopeful eyes. The little azure dragon raised its head and asked, "Honey, did you really see that?" I sighed. "Yes, I saw it with my own eyes." Loren was thrilled, so I cut him off immediately. "Even if I saw it, I wouldn't want to say anything." Loren looked shocked. "Why, isn't it obvious? It's because of me." Little azure dragon snorted through his nostrils. "With a perfect husband like me, why would my wife need anything else?" I nodded with a smile. "That's exactly it." With Loren staring in disbelief, I carried Little Azure Dragon back home, but after what just happened, staying here felt pointless. Who knows when Loren might show up again? "Let's move out," I suggested. He agreed without hesitation. We wasted no time and left that very night. I've been living a sober life for a while. During the day, I'd leave Xiaobo in the dorm, and he never made a fuss. At night when I went to study sessions, he'd quietly keep me company. After about a month of this routine, the clan leader called to say the trials were about to begin, insisting I bring Xiaobo back immediately. I know about the trials. Every dragon has latent potential, but it takes an arcane ritual to reveal it. That moment separates the mighty from the mediocre. Taking it seriously, I immediately got Xiaobo fitted for a tailored suit. These days, Clothes make the man like a saddle makes the horse slip into that bespoke suit and the aura follows. Who'd have thought I'd run into Loren even in this obscure little boutique? Do you have to be everywhere I go? Loren fixed those puppy dog eyes on me and said, what if I told you this wasn't a coincidence? I got goosebumps all over. How odd coming from him. I reached out. Serafina, do me a favor and keep your people in check. I shot him a pointed look and added sarcastically, I'm a decent person, not into cheating games. Lauren's expression darkened. Serafina stormed over immediately, yanking Lauren's ear as she scolded. What the hell are you doing? Pulling this crap right under my nose. I'm warning you, don't try any funny business. She tossed a pile of clothes at him. Try these on. Loren shook free. Why the hell should I listen to you? Serafina smirked coldly. Because I hold your life in my hands. She produced a pitch-black stone, muttered an incantation over it, and Loren immediately clutched his head in pain. Know what this is? When your dragonkin forged the pact with us, they left us this artifact to keep you in line. One chant over this stone when I'm displeased, and your skull will feel like it's splitting open. Loren stared at the stone in disbelief. You all have these? Serafina nodded. He suddenly looked up at me. Then you, with a faint smile. I pulled out an identical stone from my pocket and dangled it before him. Loren asked in confusion, then why didn't you use it on him in your past life? Isn't that precisely because of love? I didn't want to bind him with such means, otherwise, with all his provocations, do you think I'd have let him live? Xiaobo just stepped out of the fitting room and spotted Loren. With a puzzled look, she muttered, what's he crying about in broad daylight? I shrugged, who knows? Maybe he's just overcome with patriotism. Let's go. I grabbed Xiaobo's hand and walked away. Meanwhile, Loren remained frozen in place, looking like he'd just seen a ghost. Serafina stood by, scolding him while using her stone-like strength to force him into trying on clothes one by one. His face darkened with reluctance, yet he had no choice but to comply. The ordeal continued until he was completely exhausted. And then came the real kicker. Serafina packed up all the clothes she'd tried on and asked the clerk to ship them to her boyfriend. Remember not to include my name. It's gotta be a total surprise. The move completely floored Loren. Wait, those aren't for me. Serafina rolled her eyes. What were you thinking? Of course I bought these for my boyfriend. His expression shattered as he stood frozen in place. He'd expected Serafina to be domineering and unkind, but never imagined she'd openly cheat right in front of him. Technically speaking, Serafina already had a boyfriend. In our past life, I'd warned him, Serafina had countless boyfriends back in her school days, but he wouldn't listen when I told him that. He even mocked me, saying I was just jealous because I couldn't get a man. Do you realize how ugly you're being? If you lack charm, work on yourself instead of putting others down. Oh, so my well-intentioned advice came across as jealousy to him. Fine then. He's been reborn too. Let the bastard open his damn eyes and see the truth. I left with Xiaobo to make sure Xiaobo would shine that day. I even hired a PR agency, but that slippery bastard somehow ambushed me during a bathroom break. That scared the living daylights out of me. What are you doing? He grabbed my arm, staring intently as if he had 1,000 things to say, but I wasn't having any of it. Just turned on my heel and walked away. Don't go. He grabbed my arm, then wrapped me in a back hug, mumbling into my shoulder, I missed you. I couldn't stand hearing that nonsense, so I instinctively elbowed him. To my surprise, he crumpled to the ground clutching his stomach in pain. I teased, wow, are you going into labor or something? He gasped and said, Serafina just hit me. Oh, I know about that. Just saw Serafina's post. Something about her boyfriend suspecting she's got a side piece and what to do. Someone dropped this golden comment, just beat the side piece up to prove your loyalty then. Heh, that comment was totally from me. Seeing Loren looking half dead like this, Serafina must have really gone to town on him. She hit me. He even rolled up his sleeves to show how pitiful he was, hoping I'd take pity on him. How could I possibly feel sorry for you? I'm too busy laughing at you, I said. Look on the bright side. Sure you got beaten up, but long term you're Serafina's future husband. That guy's just her current fling at best. You've got the upper hand. His face turned all shades of pale and green, absolutely priceless, whether triggered by those words or not. The guy who was just hunched over in pain suddenly straightened up and pinned me against the wall. Then he launched into this whole tortured love confession. She means nothing to me. I never wanted to be her husband. I only want to be yours. He tilted my chin up, leaning in closer inch by inch. And then he had the audacity to weaponize his god-tier good looks against me. Ira, you're the only one in my heart. His voice was so mesmerizing it could make anyone weak in the knees. Looking back, I was completely smitten by his looks back then, totally love-struck and willing to do anything for him. But now that I have Xiaobo, I'm completely immune to pretty faces. The moment he tried to kiss me, I pushed him away without hesitation. He stared at me in stunned disbelief. clearly baffled by why his trick had failed. Just then, the bead he'd been holding in his mouth tumbled out. For the moment I picked it up, everything became crystal clear. This was no ordinary bead. It had the power to nullify the pact we'd forged with the dragonkin. In other words, if I eat this, my relationship with Xiaobo ends right here. Damn, you're good. How do you even find this thing? His lips trembled as his eyes reddened. Don't you love me anymore? You promised you'd love me no matter what. Do you have any idea what kind of life I'm living now? She keeps yelling at me, ordering me around, and even said she'll make me breathe fire to grill meat at her boyfriend's barbecue party. I gritted my teeth in outrage. I'm a dragon, for heaven's sake. How could I possibly stoop to such humiliation? I couldn't help but burst out laughing. That's actually a brilliant idea. Serafina's imagination knows no bounds. He came over to hug me, his eyes suddenly reddening. Ira, please don't leave me. I smiled faintly. We were never even together. How could there be any leaving to speak of? His entire body went rigid, his body temperature plummeting instantly. For a dragon, this meant true bone-chilling terror. As I turned away, he suddenly grabbed my wrist and demanded, "Did you also get reborn? That orb isn't something ordinary people would recognize. In our past life, only the clan leader, myself, and you had seen it. So you've been reborn too, haven't you?" I arched an eyebrow without denying it. In our past life, he made a scene demanding to leave me, insisting on choosing a new master. The whole affair blew up publicly, leaving me utterly humiliated and the butt of jokes. Everyone mocked my incompetence. I couldn't even keep my own people in line. After raising you from an egg, is this all you're capable of? I went through a depressive breakdown and had to rely on medication to sleep at night. Yet during my worst moments, he was actively pursuing Serafina, constantly sharing intimate photos with her. He even claimed to be ready to commit to a relationship with her, so genuine and passionate. The most outrageous part was him claiming to have even prepared dragon scales. I was utterly stunned in that moment. The process of a dragon removing its own scales is akin to torture, symbolizing absolute devotion, the highest courtship ritual in draconic culture. That moment hit me so hard I nearly ended it all. Even now, after all this time, those painful memories still haunt me. How could a few tears and sweet words ever make up for it? You, his eyes glistened with tears, don't love me anymore. So, do you want the good news or the bad news first? After a moment's hesitation, he chose the good news. The good news is love. He was overjoyed. Don't rush, I've got more bad news for you, I said with a smirk. The bad news is... That was before the rebirth. No, not a damn thing changed. How dare you expect my forgiveness after hurting me? Besides, I've already moved on with someone else. Xiaobo, come here quick. Coming. Xiaobo came over with a beaming smile, planted a loud kiss on my cheek to mark her territory. Good girl, I replied with an equally bright smile. Loren stood aside like an awkward outsider who didn't belong. He wanted to say something, but the words stuck in his throat. Xiaobo teased, ouch. Looks like he's heartbroken. Aren't you gonna comfort him, wifey? LMAO, his broken heart ain't my damn business. Besides, the real heartbreaker's coming up soon with the test. The Dragon Clan's trial was a grand event, drawing a huge crowd that very day. Everyone was brimming with curiosity. After all, they'd hatched from eggs. Nobody knew what abilities they might possess, but there was a special stone that could reveal their powers. Legend has it this was passed down over 1,000 years ago, utterly mystical. Loren hatched first, so naturally he was the first to take the test. After pricking his finger, he let a drop of blood fall onto it. The stone turned black as a result. He looked utterly bewildered, because it meant he'd have no real skills in the future. Impossible. He pricked his finger again, but several drops later, nothing had changed. Everyone was deeply disappointed. If the dragon lacks power, it means it's weak itself. How could it possibly protect our family then? Could this be a mistake? Exactly. Why don't we give it another try? But no matter how he tried, the outcome remained the same. Loren panicked. This can't be happening. How could I? I was a golden dragon in my past life. I pushed him aside. Done yet. Move along now. I had Xiaobo step forward. Xiaobo did as told, but miraculously, his blood turned golden upon contact. The clan leader exclaimed excitedly, "Golden. From now on, he shall be the golden dragon." The crowd erupted in excitement. A century ago, our ancestors raised a golden dragon, and ever since then our family prospered with continuous wealth. But in recent years, signs of decline have begun to appear. That's why spotting the golden dragon symbolizes renewed hope for our family. Naturally, the clan leader and everyone were thrilled. They crowded around Xiaobo, showering him with praise and declaring he'd become the most important figure in our family from now on. 5. Loren stood frozen in place, utterly ignored, still doubting himself. How could this be possible? I was a golden dragon in my past life. Watching him spiral into madness, I could barely suppress my laughter. I walked over and patted his shoulder, urging him to think outside the box. Is it possible you were never actually a golden dragon to begin with? In his past life, when his blood once dripped onto the ground, insects swarmed to feed on it. I can't speak for other things, but a dragon with spiritual power, even its blood is incredibly potent. No insect would dare come near it. To test my theory, I secretly took this stone for analysis. Turns out, he's just the most ordinary dragon you could imagine, but he's so prideful by nature. If he ever found out, it would crush him, so I kept making excuses before the test, procrastinating again and again. He didn't understand my good intentions, thinking I was deliberately hiding his potential to keep him for myself. We even had several heated arguments over it. No, so I told him this brutal truth. The truth is, you're just trash. He refused to believe it and desperately argued, no way, if what you're saying is true, then why was my blood golden in my past life? Explain that. I shrugged and admitted without hesitation, because I faked it. I switched the stones in advance and painted them with pigment. Any stray cat or dog's blood would turn it gold when dripped in. He thought he was some chosen one, but turns out he's just an ordinary little dragon with no special skills. All he'll ever do is fly around or play with fire. Lauren's face contorted in shock, his whole body swaying from the devastating blow. He shook his head wildly, shouting, "Impossible. Absolutely impossible." Then he pointed at Xiaobo and demanded, "Then what about him? How do you explain this? In our past life, I saw his blood run black. Did you tamper with the stone again this time?" Hearing this, the clan leader immediately ordered Xiaobo to repeat the blood ritual. This time the team leader personally supervised it again. No, turns out Xiaobo was genuinely the golden dragon all along. That completely broke Lauren's defenses. I chuckled, watching his utterly bewildered expression. Clearly he wouldn't grasp this anytime soon. To really get under his skin, I decided to hit him with the truth. It's not Xiaobo who's exceptional. I'm the once-in-a-millennium supreme dragon tamer. Every dragon I've raised has ultimately unlocked their full potential. To put it bluntly, even if I hadn't cheated in our past lives, he would have still become a radiant golden dragon under my guidance. I've known it all along, but didn't want to force his growth. That's why I let him take his time. After all, he's a dragon. Time is the one thing he'll never run out of in this lifetime. Besides, I genuinely care for him and wouldn't want him to pay a steep price for accelerated growth, but he thought I was neglecting it on purpose, dragging my feet. He even bought into my sister's slander once, and paid the price for it. So you see, you brought all this upon yourself. Loren froze completely upon hearing this. His expression was indescribably awful. He looked utterly torn between laughing and crying. Finally, he let out a wail and started screaming hysterically. At that point, he'd clearly lost his mind, but that's none of my business. After the ceremony, Xiaobo and I lived like immortals for a while. Under my guidance, Xiaobo grew rapidly, his skills improved by leaps and bounds. He could already transform into a dragon and take me flying around. When I returned again, a whole year had passed. At a family gathering, I saw Loren, who'd been absent for ages, expressionless and listless as Serafina ordered him around. I heard my sister treated him terribly, constantly bossing him around like a servant. The moment something goes wrong, they resort to yelling and hitting. Once, someone came home to find him lying on the ground, barely alive, nothing like the majestic dragon he should be, just a listless, oversized lizard. The clan leader might have cut him some slack given his dragon status, but after his abysmal test results, even that courtesy vanished. They even agreed to let Serafina return to the Dragon Mountains in a few years to find another egg to hatch, so he's basically a discarded pawn now. Little Bo giggled when she heard. How pathetic. Pathetic, hardly. He brought it upon himself. Xiaobo nodded. Exactly, he totally deserves this, so if he comes begging to you, don't you dare soften up. Lauren's been trying to get close to me ever since I returned these past few days, hoping I'd help him out, but I haven't given him the time of day. Today he showed up at my door again. Ira, are you really leaving me for good? His haggard face and sorrowful expression showed he'd been through absolute torment. Xiaobo quipped sarcastically with exaggerated flair. Good grief, what specter crawled out of the woodwork? Don't be mean, that's Loren we're talking about, the heartthrob of his prime. Xiaobo deliberately thumped his chest. Handsome, more like a walking nightmare. That ghastly appearance is downright terrifying. What's the point of showing up looking like that? Loren wanted to argue but found himself speechless. All along the way, many had been frightened by his disturbing appearance. Ira, his sunken eyes pleaded pitifully at me. You're my only hope now. I sighed helplessly. What else could I do? Xiaobo nodded and piled on. You had such a wonderful wife but chose that trash instead. Who else can you blame? Throwing away a perfectly good life to self-destruct like this, you must have a death wish. Thankfully I stuck close to my wife this time. Now life's actually enjoyable. Wait, did I just detect some hidden meaning in that? This time, 6, he chuckled darkly. Truth be told, I'm a reincarnator too. In my past life, I suffered daily with that woman like some pathetic lackey. When I woke up this time, I was dreading how to handle it, but that idiot actually went after her himself, left me free to snag this amazing wife instead. Loren turned pale. Chabot continued, "Come on, man, you've got no idea. In my past life, I suffered terribly with that woman. Do you know how deranged she was? Her boyfriend had an incurable disease, and she somehow heard that dragon's blood drawn during agony could be refined into medicinal pills. So she deliberately tortured me to extract my blood. Ugh. In that lifetime I was literally drained dry. Oh, let me tell you something else in confidence. That woman from my past life claimed the more useless the dragon, the more potent its blood. She actually complained my dragon blood was too high quality for her boyfriend's condition. Now with a worthless dragon like you showing up, it's practically tailor-made for her needs. Holy shit, that's some savage sarcasm. It's just different ways of calling him stupid. What's the difference between this and stabbing Loren right through the heart? He could barely stand after hearing it, spat out a mouthful of blood, then collapsed and never got up again. I raised an eyebrow, looked like he was done for, probably wouldn't be bothering me again. Chabot sidled up with a grin. Honey, how'd I do just now? I've rehearsed that reincarnation speech 100 times. Didn't embarrass you? Did I? Truth is, there was no rebirth. I'd fabricated the whole story to keep Loren from pestering us again. Seems like it worked like a charm. After all, having lived a second life, I've learned one golden rule: let people chart their own destinies. Since it's the path he chose, he'll have to crawl through it if he must. Whether he lives or dies is his own business now. In this lifetime, I'm only here for the good times. Story 2. I died at the door of my marital home. The pain of the zombies' bites lingered in my mind. My last vision was my husband tightly holding me in his arms, trying to use his body to shield me from the zombies' bites. The sharp voice of the mother-in-law echoed in the room. I prayed that she would open the door, but until I died, that house belonging to me never opened even a crack. I have been reborn, and I will watch my mother-in-law and my brother-in-law's family suffer the consequences, making them taste the pain of being devoured by zombies. The pain of being bitten and devoured by zombies still lingered in my mind. I suddenly sat up, my heart pounding wildly, and my pajamas were soaked with sweat. I quickly looked around, and the familiar environment made me feel a bit at ease. This isn't a dream, I really have returned. I touched my neck, which was still slightly painful. The apocalypse, zombies. Everything is still possible. My husband also suddenly sat up. His eyes were filled with fear and uncertainty, but upon seeing me, he gradually calmed down, his eyes glistening with tears. Looking into my dazed gaze, his voice carried an uncertain and tentative tone. We're back. His voice trembled. I tightly held his hand, feeling his warmth, confirming that this was not an illusion. Yes, we have returned. The pain of being bitten by zombies still makes me shiver. Our eyes met, no need for words. We both understood that this time, we would survive better, and also make those who hurt us pay the price. I picked up my phone. Today is November 10th. The apocalypse broke out on the afternoon of November 18th. In the previous life, it was the third day of the apocalypse. My mother-in-law came to our community with my husband's sister-in-law and their 3 people, and she strictly controlled the food at home. All the food and drinks were given to my nephew's family first, and we had to look at their faces to know what we could eat. Until a week after the apocalypse, the water and electricity stopped, and the food at home became even more scarce, and my sister-in-law asked us to go out to find food. Although there was still enough rice and flour at home to last us 3 or 4 months if we saved a little, they wasted food recklessly. My nephew would throw away food he didn't like, and the food quickly ran out. The radio was playing the message that people should stay at home, and the zombies were staring at us from the corridor. My mother-in-law mercilessly kicked us out of the house. No matter how we begged my mother-in-law to open the door, her heartless voice came from behind the door. Elder brother, there's not much food left at home. We are the last remaining child in the family, and we absolutely cannot have any problems. You are the eldest. You must take responsibility. We were devoured by zombies in the corridor in endless despair, until the very end. My husband still tightly protected me underneath him. This time, I will watch my mother-in-law and my sister-in-law's family suffer the consequences of their own actions. We got married after graduating from university. Our parents live in the countryside and rarely come to bother us. I looked at my husband, my voice trembling. This life, I will make them experience the pain we went through. My husband remained silent. I thought he would still defend his family. He looked up at me. Wife, it was all my fault before. I made you suffer. But he held my hand. They are my relatives. I don't want to see your hands stained with blood. I just want to live a good life with you in this apocalyptic world. As for them, they will eventually destroy themselves. Upon hearing this, I lowered my eyes, hiding my emotions. Time is pressing. It's most urgent to stock up on supplies. As for them, I will never let them go. I looked up at the house inside. We definitely can't live there anymore. I thought about it. Selling the house would take too long. It's better to use the house our parents have in the suburbs. It's just that the house is only simply renovated, but at least it's in a good location, and the occupancy rate isn't high. I quickly conveyed my idea to my husband. After thinking for a while, he agreed. There's no better choice at the moment. As for this place, I won't let them have it without a fight. In the apocalypse, according to their habits, they probably won't need me to act, they'll destroy themselves. I was preparing to install this camera here. My husband held my hand and it trembled slightly. It was a long time since he had refused to speak. I knew he had agreed. Now that we've made the decision, we won't waste much time here. I picked up my phone. We still have a week. I will book the tickets for my parents first, lied about missing them, asked them to come here, and went directly to the house where they would stay. I looked at the phone screen. It was 8 o'clock in the morning. I didn't want to argue with Joe the pig. I just submitted my resignation. I don't have time to find an excuse for such a long leave. I picked up my phone and called my parents. My hands trembled involuntarily. I am an only child. During the end of the world outbreak, at first I could still contact my parents. The two elderly people were very worried about me and wanted to come to my place while it was not too serious. Later, communication was cut off, and we lost contact. We young people are struggling so hard, let alone the two elderly people. Their fate can be imagined. I took a deep breath, scattered the messy thoughts in my mind. This life, I must protect them well. The phone rang, and when I heard their familiar voices, my voice still couldn't help but choke. Mom's anxious voice came from the other end of the phone. "What's wrong, daughter? Did Victor bully you?" Dad suddenly raised his voice through the phone. I can already imagine it. That old man would stretch his neck and wish to be here right now. "Daughter, did they bully you?" Dad asked anxiously. I rubbed my nose, still with a stuffy voice. "No, I just miss you, Mom and Dad. I'll book tickets for you. Will you come today?" After comforting them for a while, I said there were no other problems, and then I hung up the phone. I sent them the confirmed train tickets. My mind seemed to stop thinking. Suddenly, I woke up with a start. I grabbed my phone and ordered insanely on various apps. Fragile vegetables and frozen foods were not in my consideration, because the end of the world started and power outages would soon follow. These foods could not be preserved. Ham sausages, vacuum-packed foods, cured meats, radishes, potatoes, cabbages, winter melons, onions, sweet potatoes, and liver are the ones that can be stored for a long time. I thought that in a few days we would no longer be in this community, so I directly chose home delivery. As for what happens later, I snorted and let my good mother-in-law experience it herself. My husband rented a temporary warehouse near the community where my parents lived. After all, the scariest thing about the end of the world is not zombies, but human nature. The immediate priority now is for my parents to come over. Then I contacted the property management, saying that we were preparing to move back home and needed to renovate. After reporting to the property management, I placed more orders. It's a new development, and since my mother likes to grow vegetables, I specifically chose the 32nd floor with a large rooftop when buying it. After that, I followed my husband to contact the community property management again, asking the community to keep the resources for our renovation. Later, they even used the excuse of renovation to buy some cement, sand, and red bricks. Since we were pretending to be renovating, we naturally needed to be more convincing, so we asked the workers to move the things upstairs. I gave them a red envelope as a thank you to the renovation workers, saying that I would notify them to come for the work in a few days. I also went to a warehouse supermarket and bought a lot of rice, flour, and cooking oil. All of them were moved upstairs under the guise of renovation. In the middle, we met other tenants who saw us carrying a lot of packages. I pretended to bump into my husband unintentionally and said in a soft voice, "It's your fault. I always told you not to live with Mom, but you insisted, and now you're kicked out." My husband rubbed his nose and consoled me properly. Because some sand had spilled out of the bag he was pulling, he offered a cigarette to the other side. The man who was originally cold-hearted accepted the cigarette, and his eyes showed some sympathy. After all, the relationship between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law has always been a big problem. I smiled at the two of them and said that we would finish the work as soon as possible, and asked them to be more understanding during this period. The woman on the other side smiled, and I couldn't help but feel relieved. My husband and I moved the things upstairs. We bought a lot today, and we still need to move them tonight, so as not to raise other suspicions. At 3 in the afternoon, my husband picked up my parents from the station and brought them home. Seeing my parents, I could no longer contain my anxiety, hugging my mother tightly, feeling her warmth, and my mind finally calmed down. My father was glaring at my husband, who was awkwardly explaining, and I couldn't help but tug at my dress, saying, "Honey," with some grievance. I led my parents to sit on the sofa and revealed the post-apocalyptic news to them, as the events to come would also require their involvement. Hearing that I was pushed out of the door by my mother-in-law and eaten by zombies, my mother's eyes turned red, and my father looked furious and was about to go out to confront them. I quickly calmed them down. My father looked at my husband with a murderous gaze, and my husband fidgeted nervously, looking at me for help. I steadied my parents. Now was not the time to deal with them, the most important thing was to survive. I explained the plan I had prepared in advance to them, and in the end, we decided that the four of us would go separate ways. I would go buy non-perishable food, my mother would go to the market to buy seeds, seedlings, and household paper towels, sanitary napkins, etc., and my father would go buy water, for the city's electricity and water are the most basic living necessities. Husband Victor went to buy clothes and bedding, and put the items in a nearby rented warehouse first. Although the cameras here are just for show, to be safe, we decided to destroy them with radiation first. We will move the items in during the early hours. The house is a 2-family unit with a 3-bedroom, 2-living room layout. However, for us who need to store a large amount of supplies, this space is obviously not enough. Moreover, when the apocalypse comes, human waste will also need a separate space. I turned my attention to the neighboring house, and that afternoon I contacted the property management. The landlord, upon learning that we were the adjacent landlord, readily agreed to our rental request. The next morning, we contacted the property management and signed the contract. There are 6 days until the apocalypse. My parents are staying here temporarily, and we went back to our marital home and continued buying various things on different apps. When I once again pushed my cart past the community gate, the old security guard couldn't help but greet me. "You've been running back and forth so much this morning, you're almost moving the supermarket into your home." There were also 4 or 5 other residents watching me, and I knew I had attracted attention. I smiled slightly, with a warm expression. It's not that my brother-in-law's family is coming, and my mother-in-law specifically asked me to buy more things. My brother-in-law's family doesn't have a good reputation, mainly because of their mischievous child, who always gets into conflicts with other children here. Many times I had to bring gifts to clean up their mess. Everyone understood, and didn't ask any more questions, but looked at me with a bit of sympathy. I found these situations quite pleasing. Maybe now they are just curious, but when the apocalypse arrives, this attention could bring unforeseen disasters. In the apocalypse, human nature is the most terrifying thing. Thinking about this, I couldn't help but want to see what the scene would be like when my mother-in-law and my husband's sister-in-law's family faced the condemnation from the neighborhood residents. The house has already installed hidden cameras in the past 2 days. The next few trips were quite noticeable, but the security guard didn't ask any more questions. I went to the supermarket a few more times, and it felt like I had bought enough. I went to a farther and larger supermarket with my husband. My husband went first to park the car, and I directly headed to the clothing section. My husband didn't buy everything, so I still need to buy more: underwear, underpants, socks, and other undergarments. I will save them for later. When the water is cut off, it will be difficult to wash clothes, so I need to have enough spare. Also, various windbreakers. Now it's still summer, but it's uncertain if the temperature will be abnormal later. Last time, things died off in the early stage, so now I can only be prepared in advance. Food is stored for 2 years, according to the country's capability. Even if it's difficult, as long as we survive the early stage, the country will surely come to save us once it recovers. I went to a large warehouse store and bought various kinds of canned food: canned luncheon meat, canned braised pork, meat, pork, mutton, beef, chicken. Since we have solar panels at home, we must buy some meat, and we can eat it sparingly. Instant noodles, sausages, self-heating food, compressed biscuits, white vinegar, rock sugar, white granulated sugar, lollipops, glucose, dairy products. Take some, thinking that there may be power outages and gas outages later. Also took some self-heating hot pot, spicy beef packages and various instant rice. Ordered several boxes of heating pads on some software, just in case, but some express delivery is slow, so it's better to go to a large warehouse supermarket to buy for peace of mind. Take some Fujian noodles. The noodles are very fine, can be cooked with boiling water and are good for the stomach. Take more barrels of cooking oil, flour, rice. 8 treasure porridge, mineral water, bread, spicy sticks. And also take some indispensable happy water for fat boys. Took some common vegetable seeds on the way. My husband also ordered some telescopes, drones, fire blankets, folding pots, flashlights, slingshots, and marbles, as well as door stoppers, and more importantly, fire extinguishers, high-power flashlights. In case of power outages, candles and lighters will also be needed. Think of something and write it down in the memo, and also didn't forget to tell my father to buy some solar panels. The older generation all have some skills, and they can generally repair small appliances. Installing solar panels would certainly not be a problem for them. Moreover, the rooftop is surrounded by a fence, so nothing on top can be seen from the outside. I called my mom again to ask what they had bought at home. After thinking, I headed towards the household supplies section, buy some sanitary napkins, wet wipes, soap, sanitary napkins, hot water bottle, cotton quilt, electric blanket, heating pads, pajamas, and hand sanitizer. Gas is also the most essential. About a week into the apocalypse, water and electricity would start to be cut off. We also need to prepare gas cylinders. These are purchased separately, and there are very few in the city. However, it's also necessary to buy some solid fuel. Gas cannot be stored in large quantities, as it would be too dangerous. In the future, we can only rely on solar panels and solid fuel for cooking. Thinking about this, I pulled my husband towards the electrical section and took 5 or 6 electric stoves. Also get some mouthwash. Basic hygiene must be maintained. There will be no dentists to treat tooth problems in the apocalypse. Dad bought solar panels, a set of tools for repairing electrical appliances, and 2 chainsaws, military shovels, and axes. Mom bought a lot of seeds and soil. Then went to the pharmacy to buy some household medicines, but it's not enough. The second day of the apocalypse countdown. This is my last time going out. I went to the pharmacy, bought medicine for colds and fevers, anti-inflammatory drugs, and medicine for the stomach, various vitamin pills, medical alcohol, gauze, iodine. I bought everything I could, then went to nearby pharmacies to buy some more: Band-Aids, iodine, cotton swabs, thermometers, fever patches, cold medicine, alcohol, anti-inflammatory drugs, anti-diarrheal medicine, ibuprofen. I bought everything I could, although I bought a lot. The pharmacy staff didn't ask anything, not like what people say on Jihu. Nobody came to ask, everyone is just a worker. The staff isn't the boss, they just want to make sales. The pharmacy staff had a happy smile on her face. This week's sales target was secured. Thank you for coming, take care, she said with a smile. I turned around and looked at her, but I kept my mouth shut. How would others believe a stranger's words without experiencing it? They might think I was crazy. My parents went out again and brought back some beans, several big bags. My father also bought some soundproofing panels, one-way privacy film, and monitoring systems to install in inconspicuous places, and didn't forget to get blackout curtains. Looking at the full room of supplies, I finally felt a bit more at ease. I looked at my husband, who saw me and walked towards me, taking my hand and saying, "Let's rest for a while. We've been running back and forth these days, I'll massage you." I gave him a small smile and opened my phone, which was full of messages from my mother-in-law. These days, I told my husband we went on a trip, but he only replied to them a few times. Looking at the surveillance footage, I had left some perishable fruits and meats. Watching my nephew running around on the sofa, my mother-in-law looked proud, saying how great my grandson was. My sister-in-law sat silently on the side playing with her phone, while my husband's younger brother, Lin Hui, was lying on the sofa with his feet on the coffee table. Don't forget to order my mother-in-law to cook, I'm starving. The sister-in-law opened the refrigerator and couldn't help but complain. Mom still says brother-in-law's family is so rich and generous, but the fridge has nothing in it. She then glanced at the mother-in-law and rolled her eyes. The mother-in-law looked at her eagerly. Isolde, you can rest assured, once they come back, I will make them more responsible. Our little June has been losing weight these days, she said, looking at the fat big grandson with affection. Hurry up and cook, there's nothing left at home, and they didn't go out to buy anything. The mother-in-law quickly bent down and apologized humbly, then went down to buy some vegetables and rice, but not much. Lin June saw this and couldn't help but frown. Mom, you only bought this little, who is it for? The mother-in-law bent even lower. Brother-in-law said they will be back tomorrow. This is enough for us to eat for these 2 days. Once brother-in-law comes back, I will let him go buy. Xiao Jun saw that the grandmother didn't buy chicken legs, and started jumping around. Grandma, I want chicken legs, and I want cola, go buy for me. Watching the couple on the monitor who ignored everything, the grandmother said she would go buy again, and Xiao Jun finally stopped jumping around and continued playing on his phone. Good daughter, it's time to eat. Hearing my mom's voice behind me, I did a somersault and stood up. My husband still had his hands in a massaging posture. I smiled at him and pulled him towards the dining table. Oyster sauce lettuce, steamed fish, potato strips, braised pork ribs, all are my favorite dishes. Eating while talking about the next plan, Victor swallowed his food and said to me, "We'll go out again later, we need to go back to bring the rest of the things in. To give the property management a false message that we haven't moved in yet, just in case someone keeps an eye on us. We will come back in the evening, and then block the exit with bricks and cement." My parents hesitated. Are we not going to inform anyone? I looked at my parents and said seriously, in the apocalypse, the first to be killed are the do-gooders. In the apocalypse, the most important thing is to be cautious of the neighbors around us, to be safe. I pulled my dad and mom to watch some popular zombie movies and TV shows. Mom and dad couldn't eat a thing from the beginning, but later they could even discuss the plot. However, they still decided to let the people in their hometown know about the recent influenza virus, indicating that they should stock up on food. There's nothing else we can do. The village is far away, so the spread is not so fast. Most families have some seeds and stored food at home. Moreover, how could people who have not experienced the apocalypse believe such a ridiculous thing? They could only remind people. My husband and I have been discreetly using masks to remind people online, and many people have insulted us in comments. I quit the account, for it's hard to persuade a dead man. The end of the world countdown is 16 hours. That afternoon, when the crowd was the largest, our family drove out of the community. I greeted the people in the community. Uncle Cyrus, we're going to move the remaining furniture. There's a lot. We'll be back later. I asked for the access permission. Uncle Cyrus smiled and handed it over. That night, we didn't return until 11 o'clock. These days, we've been moving things from the underground garage under the cover of darkness. My whole body aches. But seeing the full supplies, my heart finally felt relieved. Mom has been gathering a lot of information from the old people on the square these days. Our building, we are on the 32nd floor. The floors below, from 26th to 31st, are still empty. On the day of the apocalypse, I remember it was at 8:40 in the morning when the apocalypse began. That day, it was because of my mother-in-law's phone call that they said they would come over to our place these days. It was precisely because of a call from my mother-in-law that day, saying they would come to our place in the next 2 days. I was supposed to prepare some things, and because of this, I had an argument with my husband. Therefore, we couldn't leave on time. 3 days after the apocalypse, they came to our residential area, and Sebastian was holding an axe that he had gotten from somewhere, stained with blood, because I couldn't bear to. I opened the door and let them in. But I didn't expect it to be like inviting a wolf into the house. This time, I really want to see how they can get along without us. 1 hour before the apocalypse, my mom and I were organizing supplies, while my dad and husband used chains and door blockers to lock all the stairwell passages above the 26th floor, and then added another layer of thick chains at the elevator entrance and fire door on the 32nd floor. We piled up cement and sand that my dad had bought, and built a wall of bricks. We also placed other heavy objects, so the elevator is now unusable. This adds another layer of security, just for peace of mind. If it weren't for the strict supervision of the property management, I would have bought several more trucks of cement and bricks to enclose us inside, but so far, this is all we can do. However, the floor is now sealed off, so even if someone later finds out there are people here, they won't be able to get in. The door blockers on the 6th floor, plus the brick wall and heavy objects on the 32nd floor. Each bag weighs dozens of pounds. Pushing them is exhausting. The 32nd floor would be our last line of defense. If it really came to that, the knife and chainsaw my father had prepared would come into play. Moreover, zombies in the apocalypse are extremely sensitive to sound. A loud noise would surely attract zombies. Even if it didn't, I would find a way to bring zombies in. 10 minutes before the apocalypse, I looked at the time, at 8:30. I stood on the balcony covered with privacy film and looked down at the people moving back and forth on the road. At this time, children were going to school and office workers were rushing. I didn't say anything downstairs, and my parents were also tense, listening to the sounds outside. The house had added soundproofing cotton. As long as we didn't make any big movements, we wouldn't have to worry about anyone knowing our presence. Around 8:40. I heard a sudden collision sound from the opposite side of the road, and below the residential area, through a telescope, I saw a young woman covered in blood, staggering towards the residential area. There were also people gathering to watch, approaching the girl, and then a loud scream was heard. The woman bit tightly onto the middle-aged man's neck, and blood spurted out. Those around were stunned and tried to pull them apart, but were caught and bitten by the woman. Looking at the man lying in a pool of blood, no longer showing any signs of life, he started convulsing. The people behind came forward to check, and found that the man who had been completely silent just now stood up in an unbelievable posture, his head hanging down, his body stiff, and rushed towards the living people to bite them. The apocalypse arrived as expected. Unaware people were infected one after another, while those who realized it ran home as fast as they could. Screams of agony filled the air above the residential area, and the smell of blood spread throughout the neighborhood with the wind. Except for the young person who was bitten at first, the rest were the elderly with slow movements. Mom and Dad lifted everything outside the residential area, their legs trembling slightly. My husband and I helped Mom and Dad sit on the sofa. My parents kept calling their friends back home on their phones, and I didn't interfere, as it wouldn't have made much difference for us now. At this time, my husband's phone rang, and when he took it out, it was his mother. My husband took a deep breath and answered the call. A frightened voice came from the other end of the phone. "Son-in-law, where are you now?" My husband had a blank expression and spoke calmly. "I'm getting off the highway now. Come back quickly. There are a lot of monsters in the residential area now. By the way, there's no food at home. When you and Science come back, remember to buy some food. Also, Xiao Jun wants cola and oranges. Remember to buy more when you come back." My husband's fingers were white from holding the phone. "Mom, are you really my mom? You never thought about how dangerous it was. How am I supposed to go back?" Mother-in-law raised her voice. "Okay, now you've married a daughter-in-law and forgotten your mother. Huh, I raised you with great effort. From a baby to a child, now it's so dangerous outside. You don't come back, leaving me, an old woman, at home. Do you want to watch me starve to death? I raised you with great effort, and this is how you treat me." The nagging voice of the mother-in-law came through the phone. Seeing my husband's vacant eyes, I reached out and held his hand. My husband looked at me and said to the phone, "Stay quiet at home, and I'll come back as soon as possible." Saying that, he hung up the phone and took out the SIM card. I tightly held my husband's hand. My husband pulled me into his arms, buried his face in my neck, and after a while, pretended to be calm again. His eyes had been a bit red before. Not long after, I heard sporadic gunfire in the distance. I sighed. But this level of firepower was not enough to control the situation. There were police reinforcements. But the infection spread too fast to be controlled. Moreover, many people thought that infected people were just sick, and no matter what, they couldn't bring themselves to harm their familiar family members and friends, which caused more infections. At this point, everyone realized that the zombie apocalypse in the movie had become a reality, and in order to survive, they had no choice but to take up weapons to fight. Also, many people were bitten or scratched, and those with hidden wounds went home, some of whom lost consciousness before they could even get home. People who wandered in the corridor, thinking that returning home meant safety. Many died just in front of their own doors. Soon, the usually safe building also began to faintly echo with agonizing screams. All TV channels were taken over by the country, broadcasting emergency news. The host calmly announced the official notice. "The origin of the virus is still unclear. Please stay at home and wait for rescue. The country will not abandon any citizen." At the same time, mobile phones also received text messages from official sources in various regions, asking residents to stay in isolation and not to contact any strange people. The property management of the community was also counting the residents. I pretended to be panicking within the community. The property management of the community at 3201. I tapped on the screen. "We are still on the way. We haven't arrived at the community yet. Is the community still safe? We should be there in about half an hour." There were other people who were specifically made aware in the group who also came forward with a look of sympathy. "You're really unlucky. If you had moved your things yesterday, it would have been better." After 10 minutes, I sent a desperate rescue message in the group. "Help, there are monsters outside. We are almost at the community. Can you help check the situation at the community entrance?" Seeing the various replies in the group, I did not send another message afterwards. "That's enough. Just pretend we were away on the way," and everyone assumed we weren't at home. From now on, we need to be more careful. Dad built a water trough on the rooftop, and also built a dry toilet next to it. It's not needed now, but we will definitely need it later. Because of the strong stimulation, I didn't have an appetite all day. I just had a little porridge and gave the parents some melatonin, and the old couple quickly fell into a deep sleep. My husband and I sat on the balcony looking at the outside of the community. The dim lights covered the area, and we could barely see people with strange postures wandering aimlessly on the road. There are rescue requests everywhere on the internet, and the government has been urging people not to go out. Some attention-seeking bloggers were live-streaming outside with their selfie sticks. Following them are groups of zombies, and some fitness influencers are teaching people how to kill zombies. A bloody scene is displayed in front of everyone, and the official has not banned these live streams. At this moment, people need to accept the current reality and learn some self-defense skills. Some influencers, having received tips, become bolder in making noise towards the zombies, attracting more zombies. Through the screen, I watched the zombies crowding outside the window behind the blogger, and I felt a chill in my heart. Many people also said not to make too much noise. Someone asked, "Is the blogger's window strong?" One of the yellow-haired bloggers was still showing off on the balcony, looking at the continuous donations in the live stream. His face was full of smugness. He didn't notice that there were already quite a few zombies gathering outside, climbing on top of each other, until he saw the live stream prompt. The yellow-haired blogger became panicked and tried to find a place to hide, but it was already too late. A large number of zombies rushed into the room, and the live stream could only hear the blogger's heart-wrenching screams. My husband and I looked at each other and turned off the phone. I turned on the phone's monitor. watching my mother-in-law and others frowning and looking at the empty fridge and kitchen. My good nephew kept crying and making noise, looking at the remaining food, this meal, except for the big grandson and son eating some. The daughter-in-law ate a small portion, and the mother-in-law could only look at the leftover food and swallow her saliva. I still added a little water and drank it after boiling, watching my mother-in-law take out her phone and make calls, trying several times, then making another call. A second later, my phone rang, and I didn't answer. I watched her make several calls, and finally she gave up. A few days later, I received a notice about water restrictions in the community. Although basic living water can be guaranteed, I saw my mother-in-law and others constantly anxious. I couldn't help but think that now the community members would probably come to me soon. Nowadays, young people don't stockpile food, they mostly rely on takeout. After a week, they would probably be out of supplies. Sure enough, someone in the community mentioned me in 602, asking, "Can you sell some of the food you stored to me? I'll pay 5 times the price, I'll pay 10 times. Can you give me a few packs of instant noodles? My child has been hungry for several days. Can you give me some rice?" I didn't respond to any of them. I watched as the people in the group changed from polite requests to shouting and cursing. WeChat had a few messages. Science. "Can you give me some rice? I'll pay a high price." There's no food left at home. Even if adults don't eat, the children cannot withstand it. It was the family next to us. I looked at them, but didn't respond with a single word. In the previous life, when they were pushed out of the door, they had already asked the neighbors for help, knocked on all the houses, but no one opened the door. Now they hope to get help from others. I looked at the continuous messages in the group, exited the group chat page, and curled my lips in a cold smile. 2 days passed, and I saw the mother-in-law and others becoming increasingly anxious, listening to them say that the mother-in-law should go out to find food. The mother-in-law looked to her younger son, Linhui, who did not look troubled. "Mom, Xiaojun is growing, I can't do anything about it." I tapped the screen and sent a photo of the meal from yesterday. The mother-in-law's phone rang, and when she picked it up, her expression lit up with joy. Sebastian and his sister-in-law looked enviously at the picture I sent, and the mother-in-law said, "Science, where are you? Mom has been hungry for days. Why haven't you come back yet?" Or, "Where are you? Mom is going to find you with your brother." The nephew looked at the abundant food in front of him, his eyes flashing with greed. He sent a voice message with the mother-in-law's phone, showing an unbecoming oily tone for his age. "Auntie, where are you? I'm so hungry, can you give me some food?" The mother-in-law couldn't help muttering, "I said they were selfish, they must be somewhere eating well, while we go and find her." Sebastian's eyes lit up. He urged the mother-in-law to ask where we were. Outside the house, there was a loud knocking on the door. The people inside nervously looked at the door. Outside, a young man's voice said, "Open the door." The people inside didn't move. Seeing no response, the person outside shouted, "If you don't open the door, we will break it down." Victor looked through the peephole and asked, "Who are you?" A sharp and unpleasant voice came from outside. "Before the apocalypse, your family bought so much stuff. Now that the apocalypse has come, why don't you just give us some of it as help?" The grandmother couldn't help but speak. "We don't have any food here." The door outside was knocked on again and again. "Open up. Do you even know if there's any food inside?" I saw Science pulling several carts of things with my own eyes. "We don't have any food at home, you guys better leave quickly." The grandmother shouted loudly to the outside. 2 muffled sounds came from outside. Fortunately, the door was strong. The grandmother saw them smashing the door and scolded them. The people outside smashed the door a few times, but failed to open it. They were also afraid of attracting the attention of the zombies, so they had to leave. The people inside felt relieved when they saw this. I raised an eyebrow. Now the apocalypse had just begun. People still had concerns. Some families still had supplies. But in a few days, it might be. I occasionally looked down at the zombies wandering below, and saw my parents taking out their phones to contact relatives and friends. The countryside was still okay, and it wasn't that serious now, but the cities were not so lucky. After several days of silence, after we had our meal, I turned on the monitor as usual and saw a few shadowy figures outside the corridor, holding weapons in their hands. Inside the room, the mother-in-law opened her mouth to curse. Obviously, they had been harassing them for several days, but none of them had managed to open the door, which had given the mother-in-law a lot of confidence. However, this time, they miscalculated. The leading strong man, after making a show of courtesy, saw that they did not respond and took his axe to start chopping at the door. After several hits, the door started to cave inward, and the grandmother and others, seeing this, became instantly frightened. They began to plead with them to leave. The people outside would not let it go easily. His voice was hoarse, saying again, "If you don't open the door, I'll cut it down." Victor looked through the peephole and peeked out, just as he met the eyes of the person outside, which scared him back. The voice from outside came, and Lin feared that they would tear down the door, putting them all in danger. He spoke in a low voice, saying, "We really don't have any food. I'll open the door, don't hit it anymore." He opened the door carefully a little, and the people outside rushed in, pushing him aside. Watching as they entered, he shrank his body and muttered in a low voice, "We really don't have any food, our house is out of grain." The neighbor's family looked at the four people. "Just the four of you, where are the people of this family?" The old woman's voice was barely audible. "They are not here, you should look for them, they just sent me a picture, they must have food." Saying that, he held up his phone. A young man couldn't help but say, "What's the use now, you don't even know the address." They searched the house, looking at the remaining little bit of rice. The leader of the group was about to take the rice. The old woman saw this and hugged the big man. "This is our last food, if you take it, we really won't be able to live." The big man looked at her with a fierce gaze, and the old woman withdrew her hand awkwardly, only able to watch the four people take everything left in the house. Watching the people leave, the grandmother sat on the ground and couldn't help but cry. "What am I going to do now?" Sebastian's eyes flashed with a cruel look. "Mom, for your grandson, you have to go out and find food, otherwise we'll all die here." The grandmother trembled as she walked inside, and Sebastian pushed his mother out of the house. Seeing the scene, I turned on the sound of the home monitor. "My dear mother-in-law, enjoy it well." Hearing the sound, several people couldn't help but look around, and found the camera on the shoe cabinet. "Mother-in-law," with a fierce look, "I knew you weren't a good person, you already knew there would be monsters, and you threw away everything in the house. Where is my son? Let Victor talk to me. I don't believe he can just watch his mother die." I looked at my husband, his calm voice showed no emotion at all. "From the moment you decided to kick us out of the house, I no longer had a mother." Sebastian pretended to be obedient. "Brother, where are you? I'm going to find you. Now that the world is in chaos, we should unite and stick together." Victor snorted, "No need. You just stay there and take your chances. Whether you live or die is up to you." Seeing his tactics fail, Sebastian pushed his mother out of the house. "Mom, go find some food quickly." Seeing her son being pushed out, Lark was frantically knocking on the door outside. Seeing no response, she could only gather her courage and walk down the stairs, stepping into the direction of the lower floor, watching her disappear from the monitor's range. However, not long after, a series of urgent footsteps approached, and the mother shouted for help. With a few zombies following behind her, I saw Lin Hui tightly pressing against the door, and no matter how the mother-in-law cried for help, the door in front of them never opened. She hurriedly ran upstairs, and due to her nervousness, she fell down in her panic. The zombies behind quickly rushed over, and she desperately stretched her hand forward. What appeared before her was the scene of her pushing her eldest son and his wife out of the door. And the ears were filled with heart-wrenching screams. She became expressionless, her struggling hands dropped down, and 2 lines of tears flowed from her eyes. A few days later, the zombies were wandering around the hallway. What was once a safe building was no longer safe, and everyone was more cautious in their survival than before. Sebastian heard the zombies' growling sound, and Xiao Jun, a bit scared, moved closer to his mother's side. They tightly covered their mouths, afraid of making any sound. My husband and I watched them struggling to survive on the other side, watching Sebastian's eyes red with hunger, staring fiercely at his wife. A few days later, checking the monitor, there was no one in the living room, but there was an argument sound from the bedroom, followed by a loud, ear-piercing scream. My husband and I looked at each other. Our eyes flashed with understanding. In the apocalypse, people's hearts are unpredictable. The horrifying scream and the smell of blood eventually attracted the attention of the zombies outside. A large number of zombies were pounding on the door, and the strong door eventually couldn't hold. Hearing the cries for help from the monitor, and the frightened shouts of a child, my husband took the phone from my hand and turned it off. During this period of observation, people in the community kept trying to go out to find food. Some came back, some never did. Maybe they left this place. We lived a life of eating and observing outside, going back and forth between 2 points, my husband, my parents, and I watched the gloomy sky, and I somewhat crazily described a beautiful life after the end of the apocalyptic world. The days passed very slowly. There are not many residents in this community. At the beginning of the apocalypse, there were requests in the group to exchange supplies. At first, it was still a harmonious scene, but later it completely fell into chaos. 2 months into the apocalypse, the community group was no longer the warm and friendly place it once was. There are also people with unclear minds, who at this point still openly tell everyone that they have supplies at home. I have a memory of this family. It's a couple, and the one who sent messages in the group was their son. She has always been quite rebellious. Seeing her classmates struggling, she took photos of the supplies at home to show off to them. By the time the couple found out, it was too late. That night, through the window, we saw people being thrown from the building across from us. Hearing the distant cries of help and curses, my husband and I looked at each other, realizing we needed to be more careful from then on. Later on, more and more people tried to break out of the residential area. Some succeeded, while others were devoured by the gathering zombies before even leaving the area. 5 months after the apocalypse broke out, there were very few zombies left around the residential area. Some followed the cars that ran out, and some were lured away by noises from outside. At the same time, a group of people organized a team in the community, recklessly looting others' food, and there were even some who ate people. During that time, people often fell from the upper floors. It was unknown whether they were thrown down or committed suicide out of despair. Without moral constraints, the darkness deep within human hearts was completely unleashed. 9 months into the apocalypse, on this day, while watering the vegetables on the upper floor, I heard the sound of car horns. I quickly crouched down and quietly observed the surroundings. From a distance, I saw a group of people in military uniforms arriving in a jeep. They were shouting through a megaphone outside. "We are the military. If there are any survivors, please come down. We will take you to a safe zone." I hurried back to the room and saw my father and mother with surprised expressions on their faces, preparing to open the curtains. I rushed over in one step, stopped them, looked at my parents seriously, and pointed down with intoned, "They are not the military." Through the telescope, I observed that a dozen men in military uniforms were holding guns. But their posture was particularly strange, not resembling soldiers at all. I handed the telescope to my parents, and upon seeing it, they couldn't help but feel a wave of fear. My husband and I exchanged a glance, and we both understood that these people probably had ill intentions. I just hope the survivors in the community aren't so naive. We quietly opened a small gap and carefully observed. We were on the south side of the community, and we could just see what was happening downstairs. After hesitating for a while, I thought no one would come down, but I still saw small groups of people coming down with backpacks. I felt a bit sad in my heart. Perhaps they also knew that they might not be government people, but after so long since the zombie outbreak, there was no food left at home, and they were caught between a rock and a hard place, with no choice but to take a gamble. I also saw some elderly people with children slowly leaving the building. Perhaps these elderly people really believed they were government people. Believing this was a chance of hope, I watched as the group grabbed the supplies, left the women and strong men behind, and took the elderly and children to get on the vehicle. The crowd suddenly became agitated, but we couldn't hear what they were saying. After a gunshot, a figure collapsed into a pool of blood. The zombies that were attracted were dealt with casually, and they scouted the surrounding area. I saw them take a package out of the car, and soon after, I saw them set up a large pot. They started cooking right there on the ground. Among the crowd, some people pulled out a few women from the car and started touching them inappropriately. Seeing this, I felt a deep sorrow in my heart. The man in charge was hugging a young and beautiful woman, his hands not staying still. I put down my telescope and couldn't bear to watch anymore. Until the afternoon, I saw them dealing with the corpses on the ground and pointing at the buildings. A sense of unease arose in my heart. The next day, as expected, I saw the group searching each floor one by one. My husband and I exchanged a glance, and for the next few days, we took turns keeping watch at night. They searched the floors quickly, and within a week they arrived at our building. My husband took out a drone and carefully sent it down. Watching them start from the first floor and sweep through the building, 2 days later, this group had reached the 24th floor. My heart was completely gripped with fear. Through the drone's transmission, I heard the man with the floral tattoo curse, "What a lousy residential area. What we found here isn't even worth the effort." "Older brother, calm down." A middle-aged man approached and bent down to flatter him. "This is a new neighborhood, and the occupancy rate is not high. This building is a newly delivered one. Let's go check the next few buildings. There are only about 10 households in this one. Above that are all unoccupied. There's one family that was supposed to move in, but they haven't moved in yet. Their house is completely empty." I saw them moving out. The tattooed man spat on the ground and kicked it. "Why didn't you say so earlier?" The man didn't dare to get up directly. He stayed on the ground, his voice trembling. I told Griffin. Griffin said not to miss anyone. The man named Griffin stood up. "Brother, I was thinking maybe we missed someone. I didn't know if what he said was true or not, so I didn't tell you." Shameful. Griffin looked at the man lying on the ground and helped him up. "Okay, we're brothers. Let's follow your rhythm to search." Glanced at the upper floor, and said to the tattooed man, "Are you still searching here?" The tattooed man snorted. What's the point of searching? Not even a single hair. As the sky grew dark, the group returned to their camp where they were staying. My husband and I were both drenched in sweat, and both of us showed relief from surviving. However, they didn't let their guard down. The next day, they headed straight towards another building. It seemed they had given up on our building. After all, there were only a dozen or so people living in our building, and they were very scattered. The middle-aged man was the property manager here. Seeing their actions, my husband cautiously sent out the drone, and the property manager pointed at that building. Seeing a group of people with fierce eyes, I continued to go upstairs. The people below said something, and the few of them turned around and left. With the property management who knew the community well, they searched faster. I couldn't help but feel worried for the people in that building. I heard the sound of a fight from the drone from time to time, which meant they had succeeded again. I didn't know what I could do. I was with my husband and his parents discussing what to do. Even if they didn't come to our building, we definitely couldn't let them stay here any longer. The best way was to drive them away. The next day, I don't know what madness these people had, but they returned to our building again. The leader at the front stroked his beard. He always felt that there was someone in this building, so the others had no choice but to follow his orders and go upstairs. There was no one on the 25th floor, and no one on the 26th floor either, until they went towards the fire escape on the 26th floor. The sound of chain friction was heard. That man pulled up his lips. They were hidden pretty deep. Brothers, it seems there's a big fish here. Break it open. Seeing their movements, our hearts were all on edge. We didn't expect this day to come. I immediately asked my husband to use the drone to search for zombies. The area around the community had already been cleared, but there wasn't a single zombie. Looking at the empty street, I told my husband to fly the drone further this time. It collided with another drone. The air seemed to pause for a moment, and the drone transmitted a message saying that the two families could work together. They were from another building, and during their home renovation, the two apartments were connected. With a hidden door in between, entering it would make the house feel less spacious, and this is how the family narrowly escaped. However, the house space is not large enough, and they will eventually come up. If they wait for the other group to search them out, they will surely be in trouble. If the other group takes the food from our house, we will only be able to wait for death, and they proposed that our two families join forces. Their family has 5 people, and they also have a few rabbits. They can use blood to hang on them to lure the zombies from a distance. I just happen to have my period these days, and I quickly thawed the chicken and hung it together with the blood, using the drone to fly low around to attract the zombies. Mom also used frozen meat to make blood water, imitating the process. It flew a few hundred meters forward, but still no sign of the zombies. I controlled the drone to continue exploring further and finally found signs of zombies about 1 kilometer away. The destruction along the way was right in front of me, which explained why they were so reckless. The zombies from the surrounding residential areas had all been cleared away, so they had been so brazen these few days. I said a quick greeting to my mom, and another family followed us from a distance, one in front and one behind, heading toward the zombies, watching the zombies slowly approach the residential area. The person left below was still moving on the woman. And when the woman saw the approaching zombies behind her, I couldn't help but feel anxious. I was afraid she would make a noise and wake them up, but I also couldn't bear to see her end up as a pile of bones. The woman had a look of relief in her eyes, but the man didn't have time to react before the zombie bit his throat. Another person pushed the woman next to him toward the zombie and quickly ran upstairs. The woman tightly held his arm, and the blood stimulated the zombie, which quickly rushed toward the man. Seeing him covering his wound, he staggered up the stairs. Hope he can give some strength, and after being infected, take all the beasts on the upper floor with him. The people with axes downstairs have already reached the 31st floor, and with their axes, they smashed the locked doors. Staring straight ahead towards the 32nd floor, the father was holding a military shovel, and the husband was holding a chainsaw, staring intently at the video from the drone. The person with the wound has already climbed to the 16th floor. Through the drone, I saw the man with a pale face, and he pulled his clothes back down to cover himself. Several people in the fire escape were still desperately smashing the brick walls, which had become as solid as a fortress after months of drying, not to mention the many heavy objects behind the brick wall. I was holding an iron rod, and my mother was boiling sugar water in the kitchen. The sugar water has a low boiling point, and if it touches the skin, it would at least cause a burn. Moreover, there is no doctor now, and basically, a severe wound is equivalent to a death sentence. That group of people was still struggling to break the wall, and the man below was trembling on his feet, walking towards them. Through the drone, we saw the short man rushing up. The man with tattoos looked unfriendly, pointing behind him as if wanting to say something, but his body twitched, extremely strange. The others noticed the scratches on his hands and looked terrified, and a zombie growl was heard from behind. The tattooed man stabbed the infected man, and looking at the stunned group, he shouted, "What are you staring at? Grab your weapons." The man killed one zombie after another trying to come up, and said to the man in red with a bag, "Hurry up and open the door." We were closely watching their movements. Seeing the man in red taking tools to open the door, our hearts were in our throats. If they really made it in, the consequences would be unimaginable. Fortunately, the zombies were faster, and the zombies behind grabbed the exhausted man's wrist and bit down hard. A scream was heard from the drone, and we couldn't help but sigh in relief. Through the drone's observation, no one was alive, and we finally felt relieved after being worried for several days. We had a simple communication with the people behind and across. Their apartment is on the 26th floor. The access control was damaged, and there were some zombies wandering in the hallway. Fortunately, they had made their door and soundproofing good enough, and they locked the fire exit after going out. As long as we don't make a lot of noise, it's not a big problem, and we have also attracted quite a few zombies away. Mom went to the rooftop and picked a few leaves of the well-growing lettuce, and used the drone to send some to that family. Everyone has been keeping some worries in their hearts these days. Some of us have been getting a bit irritable, so Mom went to get some mung beans to make a mung bean soup. The mung bean sprouts we sent a few days ago have also grown well. Dad is still growing lettuce, Shanghai greens, small tomatoes, and leeks on the rooftop, covering them with plastic film to prevent them from freezing. During this period, everyone has gained 10 or so pounds because of not moving much, and now everyone has agreed to vote that each person must exercise at least half an hour a day, gradually increasing the exercise, even if not for weight loss. Maintaining physical health is necessary, moreover, even if we are temporarily safe now. It's not certain that there won't be risks later, so Dad also reinforced the fire exit. I can't remember how long it has been, watching the snow falling outside the window. It's snowing, and without realizing it, so much time has passed. Today, we were having hot pot at home when an urgent voice came from the window. A drone was hanging a note saying, "Xiaobao has a fever, do you have medicine? Exchange with eggs." Seeing the eggs next to me, I called my husband to take out the medicine and also sent some warmers over. The child has a weak immune system, and the fever lasted for a week, and the little one finally recovered, and we couldn't help but feel relieved. It has been 1.5 years since the apocalypse broke out. Our food consumption has not even reached 1/3, and the vegetables are also keeping up. It's also thanks to the 2 elderly people, and the vegetables occasionally sent by the family across the way. And we also give them some supplies. Some of them are even made into dried vegetables, and we use water very sparingly. Fortunately, my father has built a water tank on the rooftop. The rainwater we collected is filtered and boiled, enough for washing dishes, doing laundry, and taking a shower. The family across the way consists of 3 people plus the grandparents. All of them are high IQ individuals, and the grandmother is a university professor. Maybe because the elderly like to grow some plants at home, they were able to rely on these tools to be basically self-sufficient after the apocalypse. Plus the mutual help between our 2 families, everything is still going well. My mother occasionally chats with the family across the way, and every few days gives them some food. For every person, there is a hope, according to my mother. Because the old lady across the way likes to stockpile supplies, that's how they've managed to last this long. But there's not much left now. Later on, we continued to send a lot of things over, but they really didn't have anything else to exchange, so they put a pair of gold bracelets in the basket. After several exchanges, we finally accepted them. We still have plenty to eat, and every so often, both families exchange supplies, mainly eggs, from our observations. Besides us and that one family, there's no sign of other people in the community. It's possible that only we are left. Or they might be hiding. We still speak in hushed tones, trying not to make any noise, so as not to attract zombies or draw attention from others. The second New Year after the apocalypse, we made a big pot of stir-fried wood ear mushrooms with cured pork, and another dish of green vegetables, and one of stir-fried mung bean sprouts. We also made a soup with seaweed. Mom also made a filling with green vegetables, wood ear mushrooms, and cured pork. This was the first time we ate dumplings all year, because we had very little flour left. Happy New Year. We raised our glasses to celebrate that we were still alive. After having dinner, we had just finished cleaning the table when we heard gunshots and explosions outside. The sound of a helicopter and a loudspeaker was also heard in the air. Comrades, we have developed the zombie serum. Please hold on, we will be dropping supplies in the next few days, and we will come to rescue you gradually. People in need can hang bright-colored clothes by the window. Believe in the country. We will send people one by one to get vaccinated. The country will not abandon any of its citizens. We locked gazes, and Mom, excited, was searching for clothes in the house, hurriedly taking out a red coat, which was her favorite, one she never liked to wear normally. We stretched the clothes out and hung them on the window, and the helicopter saw them and flew towards this direction. The helicopter opened its door, and we waved at the helicopter, seeing a young face. The young man in military uniform saw us and smiled reassuringly, his voice strong and resolute. Please don't go out. We will eliminate the zombies one by one and come to administer the medicine. The country has not abandoned you, and will not abandon any citizen. We nodded vigorously, afraid they couldn't receive it, and shouted at them, confirm, we have heard. They continued flying towards other places. In the following week, Mom was always radiant, and everyone was full of excitement, waiting for the dawn to come. We waited for a week and finally saw them coming to administer the vaccine to us. The zombies downstairs were cleaned up one by one, seeing the layers of protection and the personnel coming to administer the vaccine. Their eyes sparkled with tears. In the apocalypse, many people had died at the hands of their fellow citizens. We struggled to move the clutter aside, making sure none of us had been infected or injured. They smiled, bowed to us, and behind them, the white-clad medical staff took out a syringe from their suitcase. Watching the clear liquid injected into my arm, I asked them about the situation outside. They recounted the information they could share, and this battle was won very hard. Afterward, Mom warmly invited them to sit down and have a meal. Although they repeatedly said it wasn't necessary, they couldn't resist Mom's enthusiasm. When they left in the end, they still reminded us that they were now in the stage of large-scale elimination of zombies. But please don't go out. They have led the zombies away from the vicinity, but just to be safe, let's wait a bit longer. The victory is within sight. I looked at my husband, and we led them to the next room, seeing the relatively ample food. I smiled and said, I hope this can bring more people hope. After the young soldier reported to his superior, they left some for us, and the rest they donated to the country on our behalf. Watching their retreating figures, our family re-locked the door. When they left, they fixed the door downstairs. We reinstalled the door blocker and waited at home in peace for the country's instructions. The victory is within sight, and we will not cause any trouble for the country. In the following days, we saw planes flying by occasionally. The planes used noise to attract zombies towards the suburbs. A series of explosions were heard in the distance. We sat at the dining table, and all of us wore expressions of joy. Cheers. Half a month later, the country finally issued a notice, and the sky was filled with the joy of victory. Our country has cleared all the zombies, and there is not a single zombie left alive. We have once again returned to the sunlight. Looking at the people slowly walking out, a little girl was waving at us. It was Yuen, the family we often traded supplies with. It turns out, not only us, but many people have been quietly persevering, waiting for the arrival of light. We smiled at each other. For the development of the country, we joined the reconstruction efforts in various places, and a new life is about to begin. Story 2. After a scoundrel tricked me into losing all the supplies in my space and then threw me into a pile of zombies, I was reborn with my special abilities still intact. That very night, I cleared out the supermarket run by that scoundrel. As for him, trash belongs in the trash heap. 10 years after the apocalypse, humans established various survival zones. Ordinary people were protected by those with special abilities, who in return were served by these ordinary folks. I, luckily, had awakened a spatial ability, though it lacked defensive power. Nearly 50% of the supplies in the 9th safe zone were stored in my space because it was the largest among those possessed by spatial ability users. This made me highly protected, but there's always a weak link, and mine was the boyfriend I had loved for many years. I was unaware of his ulterior motives and his thirst for power. Although he was just an ordinary person without any special abilities, he aspired to rise above others. Before being thrown into the zombie pile, Victor, holding his mistress's hand, smiled at me and said, Marina, thanks for the supplies. If I become a leader in the safe zone, I'll burn some money for you in the afterlife. The hell with that, Victor, I won't let you off even in death. However, I didn't get the chance to shout these words. In a blink, everything went dark, and I lost consciousness, too. When I regained consciousness, the TV in front of me was broadcasting the news. New York Times. August 23rd evening, C District's kind-hearted citizen Mrs. Nina was digesting her meal with a walk in the park when she unexpectedly found a man with a dark greenish complexion. I stiffly turned my neck to look at the TV. Although the photo was blurred, I could instantly tell that the man in the picture was turning into a zombie. Give him another minute, and he'd start attacking people. But the news only showed one image and didn't continue the story. I inadvertently shouted, "Zombie, run." "Opal, what's wrong with you? What zombie?" Hearing my shout, my dad came out of the kitchen holding a spatula. "Dad," I couldn't believe it. I was on a business trip when the zombie outbreak massively escalated. Both my elderly parents were unreachable due to communication failures. When the safe zones were established and long-distance communications were restored, I had no news from them. "Working yourself silly, if you ask me. You should change your job." Staying out all night just because of overtime work, Dad handed me a cup of warm water, his face full of concern. "Rest a bit, the egg noodles will be ready soon." I took a sip of water, feeling slightly calmer. Unexpectedly, there seemed to be no dead end for me. "Marina, I'm back." It took me 3 minutes to digest this good news. I greeted my dad and walked into my room to check my abilities immediately. Good. My space was still there and hadn't shrunk. I hadn't measured it precisely, but I had a rough estimate. The space was about 3 meters high, 800 meters wide, and 1,000 meters long. Thinking back to my past life, where I was the equivalent of half the district's warehouse, although I had a prestigious position, I was strictly confined within the safe zone and never really had a life of my own. I longed for freedom, which made it easy for Victor to deceive me. He had contacted 20 spatial ability users to distribute the goods in my space, leaving these people at the base as a guarantee in exchange for a chance for me to travel. The person supposed to protect me had already colluded with him, and together they mercilessly pushed me out when we were surrounded by zombies. In this life, I just want to stock up on goods, find a safe little place, and live out my life peacefully with my parents. As for Victor, I'm not going to let him go either. In this life, he was the first one I took action against. There was still a week left before the zombie outbreak went into full swing. Victor had opened a warehouse supermarket, and the first step in stockpiling was to empty his own supermarket. In his previous life, he had relied on the substantial supplies from the supermarket to gather a group of people with special abilities and establish a territory. Although he didn't have any special abilities himself, he still managed to live quite comfortably. Later, when the safe zone was established, he and a group of friends moved into Zone 9 with the last of their supplies, and that's when they met me. With my help, he managed to live a relaxed and comfortable life in the safe zone. Unlike most ordinary people who had to work frantically every day just to fill their stomachs, he really was ungrateful, thinking that just because he had supplies, he could do whatever he wanted in the safe zone. The leader of the safe zone wasn't someone to be easily manipulated. More importantly, he dared to openly cuckold me. Remembering this made me so angry I couldn't sleep. After eating the lovingly prepared midnight snack from my father, I got dressed and sneaked into the supermarket in the middle of the night. I had the key to a side door of the supermarket, or more precisely, to Victor's office. His office had a side door that directly connected to the stairs outside, and the other door led directly into the supermarket. All I needed to do was enter his office and then sneak into the supermarket from there. I must say, Victor's warehouse supermarket was the largest in the area, with 3 floors in total, each dedicated to selling different types of products. Thanks to the characteristic of time standing still inside the space, I didn't have to worry about food preservation. The first thing I did was rush to the food section on the first floor. The freezers took up too much space, so I took out all the refrigerated and frozen food and piled it in a corner of the space. Things were a bit messy now, so I decided to take the rest of the goods along with the shelves into the space and sort them out when I got home. Victor's supermarket must have just received a new shipment of goods. The freezers were filled with various kinds of meat, such as large meat chops and small rolls, all looking very appetizing. There were also chilled milk and yogurt. I remembered there was a large cold storage at the back of the supermarket. I'd check later if I could open it and maybe pry it open altogether. After 10 years of the apocalypse, although I never starved, I never really had anything delicious to eat. At most, I was just getting by without starving. When I go out later, I definitely need to explore the snack street. As for the foods already on the shelves, like instant noodles, packaged snacks, and various condiments, I didn't even look at them. I just packed everything, including the shelves, into the space. It's just too bad it was too early. I remembered there was a baker on the first floor who steamed a lot of delicious steamed buns and baozi every day. I used to buy a big bag of them to take home and freeze to eat slowly. It took me half an hour to empty the first floor. Then I didn't stop and headed straight to the second floor. The second floor mainly contained household items, like toilet paper, underwear, and socks. Considering I had plenty of space, I emptied it all. These were daily necessities. In my previous life in the safe zone, it was incredibly hard to find paper products. Seeing a whole wall filled with various types of paper products now gave me a great sense of security. I almost emptied the entire supermarket, and I thought about how Victor would react tomorrow morning when he walked in to find it completely empty. His expression would certainly be interesting. Feeling pleased, I made my way to the cold storage on the first floor. The door to this freezer had a keypad lock. After thinking for a moment, I entered 518888. Victor always kept his passwords, like his phone and bank card passwords, very secure around me, but all his 6-digit passwords were this. I had known it all along, which essentially meant I want to prosper. I was a bit nervous when entering it, as if it wasn't the password he set. It would be hard to guess, however, given Victor's suspicious nature and how it related to his own money, he would have definitely handled it himself. Sure enough, after entering the password, the lock opened with a click. Wow, it's really cold. Pushing open the heavy iron door, a thick fog hit me in the face. Once inside, the mask clung to my face due to the moisture in my breath. The fabric around my mouth stuck uncomfortably to my skin, urging me to make this quick. Speaking of the mask, it's an essential tool for any raid, as there was no way I could blatantly expose my face in a surveillance-heavy supermarket while stealing. It might not be the most attractive look, but who cares about appearances when they're up to no good? I continued to steal entire shelves of items with a mere touch. They vanished instantly, reappearing in my space. The thought of the security personnel's shocked faces when they reviewed the footage brought a delighted hum to my lips as I began looting the cold storage. It was mostly frozen meats, like imported steaks and large prawns, along with frozen ready meals that could be microwaved in a minute or steamed dumplings. There were also numerous boxes of ice cream. I cleared out the entire cold storage. When I left the supermarket, it was still early morning. The streets were deserted. But I knew that from the moment the news broadcast started, the apocalypse had descended. Fortunately, it hadn't reached here yet, and I made it home safely. At home, my parents were still asleep. Sitting in the living room, I pondered my next steps. Currently, I was living with my parents in a high-rise residential area in the city center, which was densely populated. If a zombie virus outbreak occurred on a large scale, our neighbors could turn into zombies. And a mere security door wouldn't hold them off for long. From my 10 years of experience in apocalyptic survival, I knew zombies evolved. Initially, people hoped that zombies would continue to decay until they turned into skeletons without any mobility. However, as the zombie groups upgraded and strengthened, even highly combat-capable humanoid zombies appeared, apart from their pale gray skin. These zombies were almost indistinguishable from humans and possessed powers far superior to humans. There was once news of 3 humanoid zombies that wiped out an entire small base. I definitely wouldn't take my elderly parents to a survivor's base established after the apocalypse. If I didn't want to reveal the full supplies in my space, I'd have to pose as an ordinary person, which meant living a hard and undignified life at the bottom of the base hierarchy. If I disclosed my special ability, the base's control over space-related abilities was strict. They not only severely restricted personal freedom, requiring compliance with their commands, but they also regularly audited the supplies in the space, making it impossible to keep a large stash of supplies. The best plan was to find a safe place, like an underground bunker, and form a small team with a few powerful allies. A smaller team meant less living energy to attract high-level zombies and less internal strife. We would have one common goal: to survive peacefully. Having survived 10 years in the apocalypse, I was somewhat familiar with the top human abilities and had some candidates in mind for my team. After deciding on the members, I picked up my car keys, stepped out, and continued my shopping spree. While it was still early, I needed to ensure I had enough supplies to support the future team members. My first stop was the vegetable market, at 4 or 5 in the morning. The market was bustling, trucks loaded with fresh vegetables were coming and going, and the vendors were busy moving crates up and down. As I wandered through the vast expanse of the market, I finally stopped at an inconspicuous corner. There, a lean young boy and girl were busy unloading vegetables from plastic crates onto a stall that was only half set up. Noticing me lingering around, the girl wiped her hands and approached me. "Sister, what would you like to buy? Our vegetables are all organically grown by our family, completely natural and pollution-free. Both fresh and clean. I'll take everything," I declared with a wave of my hand, ready to buy out the entire stall. "What?" the girl asked, clearly puzzled. "I mean it. I'll take all the vegetables on your stall." "Sister, that's quite a lot of vegetables. Are you joking, or serious? I'm purchasing for my company's canteen. We can finish these in a day." "Is that boy helping you, your brother?" "Yes, that's right. We're twins." I had found the right suppliers then. Pulling out my phone, I asked, "Little sister, could you calculate the total cost? However, my car can't fit all of it. Could you help deliver it to the garage at Unit 103, Building 3, Ideal Home Community?" Sure, I'll calculate it now and have my brother deliver it in our truck shortly." As a big sale was at hand, the small electronic scale at the stall proved insufficient. The girl borrowed a larger one from a nearby vendor and Alongside her brother, they hustled to load the priced vegetables back onto their truck, both drenched in sweat. By the time the total was calculated, the sun had climbed high into the clear blue sky. Sister, the total comes to 7,982 yuan, but I'll round it down to 7,900 yuan for you. No problem, I've made the transfer. I paid promptly and then followed their truck to my home's garage. Why not leave these baskets here for now, so it's easier for others to move them later? Let's exchange contact details. You can come back for the empty crates this afternoon. I'll take the same amount of vegetables tomorrow. The siblings had no objections, but just as they were about to leave, the sister tugged at my sleeve. Sister, do you need vegetables every day? We have a large garden at home, and if you need them daily, my brother and I can deliver directly here. Yes, every day. Great, great. Oh, sister, I almost forgot. Here's today's bill. I gave you the lowest prices, no need to check, I trust you. Perhaps they had never encountered such an easygoing customer, for the siblings were overjoyed, hopping into their truck and waving cheerfully as they left. I watched them go, then turned to pull down the garage door. It only took a few minutes to store all the fruits and vegetables filling the garage into my space, then I stacked the empty crates to the side. Little did I know, these innocently cheerful youths would one day become the notorious Gemini twins, ruthless killers. In the 8th year after the apocalypse, the Gemini twins emerged. Sister Opal was a metal elemental close combat assassin, while brother Simon was a water elemental ranged mage. Together, they perfectly coordinated a bloody purge of the leadership and the group of ability users at a major base. The reasons behind it, well, that's a long story. The siblings had lost their parents early and were raised by their grandparents. Originally, the meager pensions of the elderly couple were just enough to support the children's education. Who would have thought that a malignant tumor would be discovered in grandpa's liver, and the exorbitant treatment costs were daunting for the elderly couple. Over the years, the elderly had managed to save a little money. Originally, Grandpa wanted to leave the savings to his 2 children for their future after his passing. However, the siblings refused to agree. They gave up their studies and tipped Grandpa from one hospital to another for treatment. Eventually, the tumor was successfully removed, but the family was left heavily in debt. Moreover, during Grandpa's recovery, over 80% of the imported drugs he needed were not covered by social health insurance, leading to another substantial expense. Nevertheless, the siblings were determined. They cultivated the family land, toiled daily in the fields, and sold vegetables early in the morning. After covering the cost of the medication, the little that was left barely sufficed to sustain their livelihood, but their fragile balance was shattered when the apocalypse arrived. Numerous safe zones of varying sizes were established during the apocalypse, and the siblings, along with their grandparents, chose to join a major base. To ensure their grandparents could enjoy their later years in the base, the siblings volunteered to serve loyally at the base. Growing up together, the siblings had a high level of understanding between them. Whether it was fighting zombies or eliminating enemies, they coordinated flawlessly, striking with precision. The person in charge of the safe zone benefited from their talents but acted ungratefully by merely sending the elderly couple to a supposed safe place for aging care under the supervision of a healer. In reality, they were placed carelessly in a location with harsh conditions, no proper care, and insufficient food, leading to the grandparents' demise soon after. The higher-ups in the zone kept this news hidden, and the siblings were oblivious, even when they eventually found out. Facing the threats of most of the powerful beings within the safe zone, these just adult siblings had no power to resist. They endured the humiliation and, after a few years, found an opportunity to avenge their past grievances. However, they did not trouble those unrelated to the incident, targeting only those who deserved it. Even after gaining their freedom, they never deliberately troubled anyone else. These filial and principled siblings, kind-natured yet capable of decisive action, were ideal candidates for any team. Their family also owned extensive farmland, which, with an earth elemental ability user, could be turned into a refuge from the apocalypse. However, in a world filled with powerful beings of the apocalypse, earth elementals were almost non-existent. The only earth elemental was known for his brutal and bloody deeds, so I thought it best to plan carefully for the long term. I have lived in the apocalypse for so long that I've forgotten the exact day when the zombies completely lost control, but it's certainly not in these next few days. Walking through a street bustling with the scent of fireworks and snacks, I pulled out a foldable cart from the car and began my sweep for delicious food, starting with 20 packs of octopus balls and 40 bowls of grilled cold noodles, which are quite tasty and don't take up much space. I also packed 5 servings of snail noodle soup since I already had bagged instant versions in storage. Oh, and I made sure to ask the vendor to add fermented bean curd, chicken feet, fried eggs, and pig trotters to each bowl. The rice noodle roll tasted great too, especially with the pickled pepper sauce, super delicious. The vendor was quick, and it didn't take long to prepare the 30 servings I bought, dragging the almost full cart. I happened to pass by my regular bun shop. The steaming hot buns had just come out of the oven, and I couldn't resist. I bought the entire batch of over 300 buns, piling them up like a small mountain on my cart. With few people on the snack street during the day, I found a secluded corner to stash everything into my storage space, then nonchalantly continued my food hunt with the now empty cart: stuffed bread, starch sausage, grilled gluten, egg burgers, fried chicken, pancake rolls, cold skins, cold noodles, stinky tofu, grilled chicken legs, bobo chicken, fried yogurt, egg waffles. After 5 rounds of filling and emptying the cart, I finally reached the end of the snack street. I picked up the folded cart and carried on. I started my shopping spree again from the very first store where I had begun earlier. It must have been the first time anyone saw snacks being bought in bulk, so the shopkeepers remembered me quite well. Thus, when they saw me pushing an empty cart back for more, they were all stunned and asked, "My goodness, where did all that you bought go?" I was buying afternoon tea for a company gathering. My colleagues have just driven away with the stuff. Yes, that's right, our company is quite large. With over 1,000 employees, don't worry about the snacks getting cold. We packed everything in insulated boxes and delivered them directly to the venue. It's not too hard. This is also a way our company shows care for its employees. They eat, and I shop. The gathering lasts quite a while, with everyone enjoying food, drinks, and fun. After handling those questions, I ended up circling through the snack street 3 times. Next, I went to a few restaurants to pack different kinds of boxed meals. When buying these meals, I didn't have to be too cautious. I parked the car in front of the restaurants, loaded hundreds of boxed meals into the trunk, stored them in my space, and then drove to the next restaurant to repeat the process. While I was enjoying my shopping spree, my bank card showed insufficient funds when I tried to make a payment. Fortunately, my credit card still had a credit limit of over 100,000. With only a few days of peace left, I quickly bought everything I needed, and even things I didn't. As someone with space-related abilities, having my space filled with supplies is my reassurance and source of security. Time flew, and it was almost evening before I remembered the cargo boxes in the garage. I hurriedly called Opal to come and pick them up. As soon as I arrived home, I saw Victor with bloodshot eyes, standing with 2 policemen at the entrance of my building. Seeing me drive up, he quickly approached and exclaimed, "Marina, I've been calling you all day. Why didn't you answer? Did you call me?" I was about to take out my phone when I suddenly remembered that the first thing I did upon waking up was to remove and block his contact details from all our family phones, so I put my phone back in my pocket. "What do you need from me?" "My supermarket was completely emptied out," Victor said hysterically, gripping my wrists. "Let go, you're hurting me." I freed myself from his grip. "Besides, are you insane? A supermarket can't just be emptied out like a small shop." The thief entered through the door near my office, and besides my parents, only you had the key. "What's your relationship with the thief? What are you talking about? This is absurd. If you're sick, go see a doctor and stop acting crazy here." I turned to the policeman standing beside us. "Officers, it's true Victor gave me the key to his office, but I've never used it. And how many thieves would it take to empty a large supermarket overnight? Aren't there security cameras? I suggest you check the surveillance footage." Surviving 10 years post-apocalypse, though protected by a base, I was not entirely inactive. At least, I was absolutely sure that even if they scoured the surveillance footage, they wouldn't find anything implicating me. The policeman restrained the somewhat out-of-control Victor, looking at me helplessly. The supermarket surveillance cameras were all malfunctioning last night for some reason. Only the office cameras still work. Then there's no use in finding me. Do I look like a superhero who could empty a supermarket overnight? Though I said this, I still felt a bit regretful inside. It would have been great if Victor could see how his supermarket was emptied bit by bit, but this was also fine. It meant less trouble for me. At least there's no news of any superpowered individuals showing up yet, so I can freely and recklessly stock up on supplies for a few days. Victor still thinks this affair has something to do with me, constantly harping on about it. It's really annoying, but he keeps dragging me into it, so I can't leave. Just then, Opal and her brother Simon drove up in a truck to pick up some crates. Victor was on the verge of collapse. He had opened the supermarket with a loan. And not to mention the goods on the shelves, the warehouse alone held goods worth hundreds of thousands. Now that they were all gone, the impact on him was significant. I was standing by, uninvolved, making insensitive remarks that aggravated him. Unable to hold back, he pulled out a small knife from his pocket and lunged at me. The 2 policemen nearby didn't react in time, and I couldn't dodge, so I closed my eyes. However, The expected pain didn't come. Instead, I heard Victor scream in agony. It turned out to be Opal. She had leapt forward and kicked the dagger out of Victor's hand. Seeing Victor clutching his wrist, half kneeling on the ground and crying out, I knew her kick was powerful. Seeing Victor pull a weapon, the policeman finally got serious. They detained Victor and, before taking him away, didn't forget to apologize to me. I watched the three of them leave and then quickly turned to thank Opal. It was nothing. Just lending a hand, she said nonchalantly, waving it off, but still showing their youthful nature. As the siblings were leaving after moving the crates, Simon pulled me aside. Sister, I know everyone has secrets. I won't talk about this. About what? I asked, feigning ignorance with a smile on my face. Nothing much. But sister, our family's vegetable garden has a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables. Why don't you come over tomorrow and take as much as you want? That little rascal. Still thinking about making a big sale at a time like this. I sighed in resignation. Okay, send me the location on my phone. I'll take as much as you have tomorrow. The siblings lived in the countryside, over an hour away from the city center. I headed there early in the morning to finish collecting the produce quickly, hoping to spend the rest of the day raiding various snack bars and restaurants. Unexpectedly, when I arrived at the village, not only were the siblings there to meet me, but also their grandparents, especially the grandfather, who appeared exceptionally thin, likely due to illness, but had an extraordinary demeanor and a commanding presence. The family welcomed me warmly into their home, which was located in a somewhat secluded area. It was a two-story house, slightly old but well-maintained, built along a river, with small courtyards in the front and back enclosed by walls. As I entered their home, I immediately noticed a wall in the living room adorned with cold weapons like katanas and spears. Wow. You have these kinds of things at home. I approached for a closer look, noticing that each item was polished to a shine, clearly well used. These are some of the weapons I use for training, Opal explained, leading me to the backyard. There, surprisingly, were wooden posts used for stance training, arranged from shortest to tallest, with the tallest almost 3 times my height. Without a word, Opal stepped onto the tallest post and then leapt down, landing steadily on the ground. Wow, you've been practicing martial arts since you were young. Yes, my grandfather was a martial arts master when he was young. He taught me all this. No wonder the Gemini assassins emerged so formidably. Yesterday, Opal managed to overpower Victor with just one kick. The martial arts skills passed down in her family are no joke. Wow, a family steeped in martial arts, I say, turning to Simon, who remained silent. Did your younger brother also train in martial arts from a young age? Leo, he never took an interest in all that fighting stuff, only loved tending to the fruits and vegetables in the garden. For some reason, our garden always grows better than others. It's thanks to him that we can make a living by selling these produce at the market. Grandma said affectionately, patting Simon on the head. That's quite impressive too. I give Simon a thumbs up. After sitting at their home for a while, the siblings took me to their vegetable garden. A short drive of just over 10 minutes brought us there. The garden was impressively large, a verdant sea extending as far as the eye could see. At first, I pretended to load boxes of fruits and vegetables onto the truck, but soon realized that not much could fit, with no one else around. I simply waved my hand and stashed everything into my storage space. The siblings had suspected since yesterday that I had some tricks up my sleeve, but they never expected something so direct, and both exclaimed in surprise, Opal, Leo, pinch me, am I dreaming? Simon, sis, I saw it too. All those things just vanished into thin air. They exchanged glances, then turned their curious eyes back on me. Opal, how did you do that, sis? I placed a finger to my lips and whispered, shoo. It's a secret, known only to the 3 of us. The siblings nodded seriously. Got it, we won't tell anyone. It's easier to deal with young people, without all the scheming and backstabbing. Despite being betrayed by Victor once, I felt an inexplicable sixth sense that these siblings were trustworthy. Besides, they were smart kids. Even if I didn't tell them today, they would have guessed something eventually. Might as well clear the air and earn some favor. As it turned out, my approach was right, and I could feel them growing closer to me. Together, we harvested all the ripe fruits and vegetables in the field and stored them away by noon. They enthusiastically invited me to stay for lunch, but I had other things to stock up on, so I politely declined, paid for the produce, and left. Before leaving, I turned to them seriously. You two, call me big sister. As your elder, I won't keep secrets from you. The apocalypse is coming soon, and the scenes from zombie movies are about to become reality. I want to team up with you to fight against the zombies. What do you think? Perhaps overwhelmed by the gravity of my words, the siblings looked at each other, and it took a moment for Opal to respond. Are you serious, sis? You're not joking. Everything I've told you is true. My secret is that I have special abilities, and it's likely that you will awaken similar abilities after the apocalypse. As I spoke, I pulled out a cabbage from my storage space and then put it back in. In their eyes, a cabbage suddenly appeared and then disappeared in my hand. They were excited to hear that they might also awaken abilities. Opal, sis, I believe you. We're willing to team up with you. Seeing his sister agree, Simon quickly raised his hand in support. Very good. I smiled slightly and turned to leave, but Opal grabbed my wrist. Sister, you're also stocking up for the apocalypse, aren't you? Let's forget about the payment for today. No, take it, I insisted. Use all the cash you have to buy some medicine that Grandpa needs, then spend the rest of the time by our elder's side and don't go anywhere else. When the time comes, I'll come to find you. The supplies in my space are enough to last our two families for a very long time. The girl couldn't hold back her emotions and hugged me tightly, sobbing, Sis, how can you be so kind? After returning to the city from the countryside, the first thing I did was frantically raid various restaurants until late into the night. When I returned home exhausted yet content, upon entering, the house was quiet. My parents had already gone to bed early but left a night light on for me. On the dining table, there was a thermal container, a midnight snack prepared by my parents. I sat quietly at the table, opened the container, and savored this simple, serene, yet blissful moment. In my previous life, I couldn't take care of my parents when they needed me. This time, I am determined to survive the apocalypse with them. The next 2 days, I stockpiled like mad. Since I was determined not to stay here, my stocking up was a bit reckless. On the third day, early in the morning, I drove my parents quietly to Simon's family. When poor, one looks after themselves. When capable, one helps the world. I'm just an ordinary person, in the face of disasters. The best I can do is protect the people close to me. However, before leaving, there was one regret, not having the chance to personally deal with Victor, that scoundrel. I never got the chance these past 2 days because Victor was detained for 7 days for attempted assault with a knife. Without the vast resources of supermarkets in this life, he, just an ordinary person, probably won't have a good life ahead. I guess I'll have to find another opportunity to deal with him later. I stepped on the gas, speeding towards Simon's family under the cover of the deep night. The village was quiet at night, and Simon's family's remote location meant that the few surrounding buildings were empty, so our arrival didn't stir any noise. Considering that the older generation has traditional views and less adaptability, we didn't tell our parents about the apocalypse, merely mentioning that we were passing by and staying overnight. The night passed peacefully, but in the morning, the rooster that always crowed on time was strangely silent. As the old man was about to check the chicken coop, I signaled to Opal, and she quickly stopped him. I'll go check what's happening, I said cautiously as I pushed open the door. As soon as the door opened, I saw feathers all over the yard and dried blood stains on the ground. It seemed that something had changed outside while everyone was sound asleep last night. Early in the morning, the fog was thick, only allowing a vague view of the yard. The distance was shrouded in fog, seeming to hide moving shadows. I quickly shut the door. A weasel ate our chickens. No, that doesn't seem right. It couldn't have caused such a mess. The old man glanced at the yard, unable to figure out what had happened, and was about to go out to investigate when he was stopped again by the siblings. No, you kids have been acting strange since yesterday. What are you hiding from me? Opal wanted to explain but didn't quite know how to do it properly. Just then, a hoarse roar erupted from outside as something strange emerged. I recognized the sound. It filled my ears in the final moments of my previous life. I thought I wouldn't be afraid, having resisted revisiting those memories, but hearing the sounds of zombies again, I couldn't help but tremble uncontrollably. The old man, previously puzzled by the death of his chickens, stopped worrying and quickly helped me, along with his granddaughter, to a sofa nearby. Sister, what's wrong with you? You're shaking so badly. Lock the door. There are zombies outside. Zombies. The siblings acted swiftly, rushing to check if the door was locked securely. They then ran up and down the house to inspect all doors and windows, drawing the curtains along the way. After resting for a while, I felt much better, especially with Opal by my side, practicing her swordplay with a katana, which gave me a great sense of security. Her movements were simple yet sharp, her swordplay powerful and majestic, as if each strike could split mountains and rivers. Suddenly, she switched her grip, tapped her toe, and the back of her blade flashed by. Her swordplay then became light and elusive, like clouds chasing the wind, incredibly fast and capable of taking lives in an instant. This was no mere martial arts. Opal, despite her young age, was a true martial arts master. With Opal around, dealing with those slow-moving, clumsy early-stage zombies was like slicing through vegetables. The knot in my heart unexpectedly unraveled. By now, chaos had erupted outside. Fortunately, Simon's family's home was somewhat secluded, with only a few zombies attracted by the chicken blood spilled on the ground nearby, but we couldn't afford to be complacent. We had to clean up the blood stains in the yard. I noticed Opal's movements slowing down, and eventually, she knelt, leaning on her katana, gasping for air with a pale face. "What's wrong? Why are you so low on energy today?" Opal tried to get up, unwilling to believe her strength was failing her. I suddenly realized, both siblings were among the first to awaken their special abilities. They were probably showing early signs of awakening. Their internal energy was chaotic, and their nascent abilities and bodies needed time to adjust. The stronger the abilities, the longer this period of weakness. After I briefly explained this to Opal, she sighed. "So that's it." The next second, she lay down with her katana and peacefully passed out. "No, couldn't you have made it to the bed before fainting? Also, did I forget to tell them that although I also have abilities, I'm really a novice in combat?" Almost at the same time, Simon also fainted from weakness, leaving me, the least capable, alone with the elderly. Though I assured them that the children were all right and just needed plenty of rest, the grandparents were quite worried. I asked them to stay by the children's sides while I went out with my father, shovel in hand, to remove the blood-stained soil. It's fine, it's fine, it's fine. The zombies are sluggish now, only slightly stronger than an average person. I can take down 3 with a shovel." While I was nervously reassuring myself, Mr. William was much calmer. He carried his shovel, boldly stepped out the door, swiftly scooped the bloodied soil into a plastic bag, then tied the bag tight, brought it inside, and with a thud, threw it into the river next to the backyard. The 3 zombies howling outside the wall didn't affect him at all. His hands didn't even tremble throughout the process. After smoothly completing a set routine, William didn't rest. Instead, he picked up an inconspicuous black barrel from the corner of the backyard and poured its contents over the top of the wall. Ugh, I was about to be curious about what it was, but the strong stench that followed made me step back 3 feet. "Dad, what on earth are you handling? It smells awful." "Haha, that's Grandpa Matthew's composting manure barrel." I figured since these creatures are sensitive to the smell of blood, using something with a stronger odor might cover our family's scent. "Smart thinking," I said, holding my nose and giving a thumbs up. Indeed, this method proved effective. The zombies that had been clawing at the corner of the wall staggered away. I was initially worried that the conservative mindset of the elders from both sides would make it hard for them to accept the zombie apocalypse. Surprisingly, their ability to adapt surpassed ours. Almost immediately upon seeing the zombies, they adjusted their mindset. Especially after learning that I had a space filled with supplies, my parents completely relaxed. "Mr. William, just eating, drinking, and occasionally fishing by the river. Life is pretty good. It's like retiring early." Ms. Leilani, Simon's grandma, has a real knack for gardening and flower keeping. I really should learn from her. As for Simon's grandparents, seeing their grandchildren breathing steadily and looking healthier, they became less worried. Matthew even found time to teach me martial arts. I was very interested in the antique black gold tang sword, so he taught me a set of sword techniques called 9 Revolution Sword Technique. The 9 Revolution Sword Technique has been passed down through generations. It's powerful, with unpredictable moves and complex patterns, making it difficult for enemies to anticipate. Opal also learned this technique. She started martial arts at 3, wielded a sword at 5, and has now mastered it. Could I become as skilled as Opal if I practiced for over a decade? I recalled Opal's commanding presence while wielding the sword, eager to try. "You can't." Seeing my disappointed expression, Matthew added, "But try hard, and perhaps you could match 2 or 3% of her skill." "Okay, that's good," although that last part really didn't need to be said. The first step in learning the sword was to swing it 3,000 times a day. On the 3rd day, just when I felt like I was about to lose my right arm, Opal and Simon finally woke up. A mysterious and powerful energy wave emanated from them, and then, "I'm so thirsty and hungry. I need water. I need food." Seeing them so lively, everyone's hanging hearts finally settled. After eating and drinking, the siblings eagerly began to explore their own supernatural abilities. There weren't many changes in their lives. Opal had a gold-based power, manifesting as golden energy that could turn her body into metal, impervious to blades. Simon had a water-based power, able to conjure a small cup of water out of thin air. As for other uses, they would have to slowly figure them out themselves. However, the siblings' abilities developed in the direction of infrastructure. Initially, it was about strengthening the home's concrete walls. Opal would metallize a small section each day, believing that someday our courtyard would possess a highly defensive metal wall. As for Simon, he took on the responsibility of providing water for the household. He always felt that the virus had contaminated the water sources outside, so all the water used for eating and drinking was conjured by him. Besides that, farming and fighting zombies also became an important daily routine. Although I had a space full of supplies, It was clear that everyone was not the type to just sit at home and do nothing, so every morning, Opal would drag me out for martial arts practice, then the siblings would pull me along, armless warrior Marina, on our way to the vegetable plot, while clearing zombies along the way. I almost reached the vegetable garden. I started watering the plants, weeding, and catching pests, then harvested the ripe vegetables and fruits, storing them in my space. As time passed, the zombies became stronger and crystals began to appear in their brains. Initially, these crystals were the size of soybeans or rice grains, but they have now grown to the size of eggs. These crystals are valuable, even more precious than gold before the apocalypse. However, my space isn't qualified to store them, so until now, this is actually the first time I've come into such close contact with these crystals. Opal is the main damage dealer in our team, while Simon provides support. I follow behind them and pick up the leftovers, so, after obtaining the crystals, I intended to give the largest share to Opal, a smaller share to Simon, and keep just a small fraction for myself. Unexpectedly, the siblings didn't care at all and insisted I store all of it in my space. They preferred to enhance their own abilities through constant practice and training rather than relying on these items extracted from the zombies' brains, so I had no choice but to store these crystals in my space. Honestly, due to my limited contact with them, I wasn't very clear on how to use them. Disaster struck 2 months after the apocalypse began. I had prepared a large box in my space to store the crystals we collected during our outings. I didn't even look at each crystal, I just threw them directly into the box in my space. Today, I figured the box was almost full and thought about clearing out a new one. When I reached in, however, I pulled out an empty box. Where were the crystals? Where were the crystals we three musketeers had gathered over the past 2 months? Items in my space don't just disappear mysteriously. Normally, I don't check my space often since whatever I need appears in my hand with just a thought. This time, having lost so many hard-earned crystals, I quickly delved deeper into my space, only to be stunned by what I saw. My space, originally just a chaotic, vast rectangular area with boundaries but no distinct directions, now had an up and down, a sky and an earth. It was as if, like Panga creating the world, I watched light, clear yang rise to form the sky, and heavy, turbidine sink to form the earth, thus dividing my space into heaven and earth. Curiously, I crouched down, picked up a clump of black soil, and rolled it between my fingers. It felt just like ordinary soil. I stood up and waved at the high, unreachable blue sky. I tried walking around and discovered that all the materials were stored in one corner of this vast world. As usual, items would appear in my hand with just a thought. My God, isn't this amazing? Is this still my space? I was still marveling at the immense changes in my space when I suddenly heard my dad calling me. Normally, I would just need to open my eyes and withdraw my consciousness from the space, but this time, my dad's voice was right next to me. Yet he seemed unable to see me and turned to leave to look for someone else. I'm right here. I opened and closed my eyes, only to find myself still in the space. Could it be? Can my space now contain living things? So, had I completely entered my own space? Help, how do I get out? Almost the moment I thought of leaving, everything went dark for a moment, and the next second, I was back in my original room. Oh my goodness. After coming out, I pondered for a long time and finally attributed the changes in my space to the crystals. This could explain why a whole box of crystals mysteriously disappeared from the space. This is a significant matter. I pursed my lips, deciding to keep it to myself for now, to use it as my last trump card. Lowell Village was already sparsely populated, mostly with elderly and children remaining while the younger adults had gone out to work. Those who couldn't cope had turned into zombies, and the rest were hiding at home with their doors tightly shut. In the countryside, every household has extra grain. Even a few months' supply wouldn't be a problem. As a result, the village has been quite peaceful recently. Only when we passed by houses did someone occasionally crack open their tightly shut windows to ask us about the situation outside. We generally responded truthfully. There are fewer monsters now, but it's still not completely safe. If you want to go outside, you should prepare an appropriate weapon. Some of the braver ones had already started doing some farming. Seeing that they were fine, everyone else stopped hiding at home too. After squatting for more than 2 months, the crops in the fields had been somewhat neglected, except for the vegetable plot we tended, which was thriving. Gradually, the surviving villagers came to our house, wanting to trade money for food. At times like these, money isn't much use, Simon said, somewhat distressed. It wasn't that he was stingy, but starting to give away vegetables could lead to more people coming to ask for food. Could we really give to everyone? Leo, your aunt has watched you grow up. Please, make an exception. My little Bao hasn't had fresh vegetables for a long time. He's malnourished and his little face is yellow. If not money, we could trade for something else. The villagers gathered at the front door, attracting several zombies, which caused a bit of a commotion. Fortunately, Opal swiftly dealt with them with a flash of her blade. The villagers seemed stunned by her actions, and the scene unexpectedly quieted down. After a while, an elder spoke up. "Young man, there are no bad hearts left in our village, otherwise they would have just stolen from the vegetable plot. No, there aren't many of us left, almost everyone's here, if you turn a blind eye." His words felt a bit like moral coercion, but he wasn't wrong, with such a large vegetable plot. If the villagers really wanted to steal, we couldn't stop them. Thinking of the vast black soil in my own space, which was incredibly fertile just by looking at it, I could plant the vegetables in the space. With that thought, I stepped forward and said, "We can trade for food, but bring zombie cores in exchange." After speaking, I took out a small knife, walked over to a zombie's head, and extracted the core from its brain, then showed it to everyone. This is the core, located in the zombie's brain. As the saying goes, money makes the world go round. Now, with food scarce and Opal's dramatic emergence, everyone hesitated for a moment, then they went home to find suitable tools, figuring out how to kill zombies and obtain their cores. Within an hour, a villager had obtained a core and successfully traded it for a kilogram of cabbage, which only increased everyone's enthusiasm, since there were many vulnerable individuals in the village. The siblings volunteered to help. By the afternoon, I had collected nearly half a box of cores. When night fell and it was quiet, I went back into the space to observe. The cores placed during the day transformed into multicolored elemental light points, slowly merging into this world. As the light points faded, I could feel the air becoming richer with the essence of life, and I could also sense that the boundaries of the space were slowly expanding. The villagers of Lowell Village managed to sustain themselves successfully. Consequently, their daily routines revolved around physical training, chopping zombies, mining crystal cores, and farming. Repeating these activities day after day, the zombies around us were almost completely eradicated, although Simon eventually declared that everyone could farm without having to exchange crystal cores anymore. The villagers still habitually patrolled outside the village every day, handing over any crystal cores they collected to me for safekeeping in a special space. They said that these crystal cores were like cockroaches, visible in small numbers locally but hiding in large numbers elsewhere, requiring daily clearance to prevent a sudden overwhelming infestation that the few people in Lowell Village could not withstand. Word somehow got out, and gradually, many outsiders came with crystal cores to exchange for food. Among these people, many wanted to settle in Lowell Village. There were several vacant houses, but the villagers collectively resisted this. Consequently, checking the empty houses periodically to ensure no outsiders had sneaked in became part of our routine. On a brighter note, the village slowly witnessed the emergence of several individuals with special abilities. Simon's elderly parents, who had lived a lonely life in the past, awakened to unknown powers. The old man, now with a rosy complexion, no longer gasped for breath after walking a few steps. Full of vigor, he could take down a group of zombies single-handedly with his saber and spear. My mother developed a wood-based healing ability and became the village doctor in Lowell Village, tending to anyone with minor ailments. Others included Granny Mabel with her immense strength, Thomas who could fly, Ted with his earth-based abilities, and Colin with his wood-based powers. Thomas was a member of the village patrol team, and every morning he could be seen flying above the village. Colin and Ted formed a team, recently focusing on building walls and planting trees around the village. Thanks to the continuous supply of crystal cores, my space also became increasingly sophisticated, evolving into a world with mountains, lakes, seas, and the cycle of the sun and moon. It lacked only living creatures to match a real miniature world. Everything was progressing in a direction far better than in my previous life. One day, Granny Mabel and I manned a stall at the entrance of the village. As the village land expanded and yield increased, we decided to set up a stall where nearby teams could exchange crystal cores for food daily. In the freezing weather, I wrapped myself in a thick coat, clutching a hand warmer, feeling somewhat drowsy. By noon, a squad of 7 arrived, 1 crystal core for half a kilogram of food. A familiar voice startled me awake. Opening my eyes, it indeed was that damn Victor. "Yes, young man. Take a look, this is all we have left on the stall." Granny Mabel responded, "We only have 100 crystal cores. Can we exchange them for everything on the stall?" "That won't do, dear. This all weighs over 100 kilograms. Granny Mabel immediately refused. "What do you mean no? Look, each of my crystal cores is the size of a fist. The largest ones nowadays are only the size of eggs. How can yours be the size of a fist? How big do you think a brain is? What do you mean? You people from small villages haven't seen the world. It's 100 for everything. Take it or leave it. No deal." Granny Mabel sternly refused and motioned them away. "You old fool, you'll exchange today whether you like it or not." A tall, muscular man from the squad stepped forward and tried to push Granny Mabel aside, but found she wouldn't budge an inch. "Damn it, get out of my way." He used both his hands but still couldn't push the old woman aside. "Oscar, what's taking so long?" Just grab the stuff and let's go, Victor yelled from the side. Victor, you son of a turtle, why are you yelling? This old lady's tougher than she looks. Think you can do better. Oscar's face turned red while Granny Mabel remained cool and composed. It seemed the village had been too peaceful for too long. Facing trouble for the first time, Granny Mabel probably wanted to make a big scene to relieve her boredom and also to set an example. Especially since there were quite a few onlookers nearby. Screw it, I'll do it myself. Humiliated in front of everyone, Victor was seething with anger and aggressively kicked towards Granny Mabel. In the next instant, his leg was caught by Granny Mabel, who casually grabbed it and twisted fiercely, turning his leg into a twisted mess as blood sprayed out, covering both me and Granny Mabel. I didn't control my strength again. Quickly, call Leo over to clean us up. Granny Mabel nonchalantly shook her hand, ignoring Victor, who had fainted on the ground. The sight was satisfying and also served to intimidate everyone present. The group sheepishly left with their bags, and it seemed none of them were particularly skilled. In their haste, they even forgot to drag away the unconscious Victor. By the time everyone had left, he still hadn't woken up. Granny Mabel was a bit uneasy. Should we take him to your mother to have a look? I don't want him to die. I just wanted to scare the petty criminals, not kill anyone. It's fine, you pack up and go back. I'll handle him, a grown man like him. Can you even move him? And where are you going to take him? I'll find a safe place to leave him, maybe give him some food. After that, his fate is his own. Maybe I should do it. Young lady, you shouldn't get your hands dirty. Don't worry, Granny Mabel, I'll make sure everything is taken care of. After convincing Granny Mabel to leave, I looked around to make sure no one was watching. Then I threw Victor into my space, planning to drop him off in a place crawling with zombies. In my past life, he caused my death among a horde of zombies. This life, I'd let him experience being devoured by them. Along the way, I gathered a bunch of zombies and found an abandoned factory where I finally let Victor out. He finally woke up, but didn't recognize me, pleading incessantly, "Ma'am, please let me go. I underestimated you today. I was blind. Victor, open your damn eyes and see who I am." Marina. Victor's eyes widened. "Marina, for the sake of our past, please take me back to the village. Find me a doctor, and food. Why do you think I would listen to you?" I finished speaking, pointing to the side, and the shelves from Victor's supermarket instantly fell to the ground, raising dust. Victor, choked by the dust, coughed violently, his eyes red with rage, cursing at me. "Damn it, Marina, so it was you who robbed the supermarket, you thief, bitch. Understand your current position." First, I sealed his mouth with tape, then pulled out a thick hemp rope and tied him to the central load-bearing column of the factory. Victor wanted to resist, but times had changed. After months of wielding a knife and being a superhuman myself, subduing him was a breeze. After securing him, I retrieved the items from the shelf and released dozens of zombies I had stirred earlier, then quickly left the scene. The zombies, attracted by the strong scent of blood on Victor, drooled and roared as they pounced on him. I turned around, exited the factory, closed the heavy iron door, and wrapped it with chains. Victor, an eye for an eye. We're even now. 8 years post-apocalypse, Lowell Village Safe Zone was officially established. By then, perfect humanoid zombies had appeared nationwide, devastating many small bases. Through daily training and combat, everyone in Lowell Village was capable of fighting zombies, but the humanoid zombies still posed a significant threat. The training intensified daily until one day, we encountered the rumored perfect humanoid zombies. There were 2 of them, and aside from their grayish-blue skin, they looked just like humans, yet their lethality was immense. Despite the efforts of Opal and other metal-manipulating superhumans, the metallic walls surrounding Lowell Village, strong as they were, could not withstand the assault of the perfect humanoid zombies. They tore open the metal walls with their bare hands, and a tide of regular zombies flooded in through the gaps. It was a do-or-die moment for Lowell Village. Everyone gathered by the river to strategize, and a group of elderly with graying hair stepped forward. "You take the women and children and swim away from the East Harbor. We old folks will hold them off here for a few minutes." Naturally, the children disagreed, but everyone despondently understood that this was the best course of action. If they stayed, they would all perish here. Granny Mabel, determined, pushed people towards the backyard. "Don't hold us back. The future of Lowell Village depends on you." And there I was, just coming out of a ditch, right into this life-or-death farewell. Hey, there's always a way out. I have a good idea." "What's the idea?" "There's no time to explain now. Everyone line up quickly, then close your eyes." After so many years, the villagers trusted one another deeply. After confirming I was not joking, everyone did as I instructed. Women and children were at the front, the able-bodied in the middle, and the elderly voluntarily at the back. I touched each one briefly. Within 3 minutes, I had moved everyone into a safe space. Just then, The first perfect humanoid zombie appeared in my line of sight. I waved at it and then also entered the safe space. Thereafter, the villagers temporarily lived in this safe space while Matthew, along with a sibling pair and several other highly capable villagers, targeted isolated perfect humanoid zombies for elimination. Of course, I had to be there too. During the battles, I hid in the safe space, watching with the villagers as the ambush on the perfect humanoid zombies was streamed live in 360 degrees on the sky screen. A child poked my arm. Marina, didn't you say your knife skills are the best in the village? Why aren't you out there fighting zombies with Sister Opal and Brother Leo? What do kids know? A true master never shows off unnecessarily.